This is Election 2025. Australia Decides. Live from Nine's election headquarters.
And a very good evening to you. Welcome back to Nine's special coverage of Election 2025. Australia Decides. Let's reintroduce our panel. We've got Nine's political editor, Charles Croucher. Are you feeling good?
Really excited.
Excellent. Finance Minister Katie Gallagher. Nice to see you.
Thanks for having me on.
And look who's turned up. He's come straight from his
Out of the
balcony
witness
seat.
protection plan.
Chris.
As I live and breathe. Chris Bowen.
Straight from looking after my electorate, which is what a good local member does.
Oh, most excellent. Nice to have you on the
Great to
desk.
be here.
Welcome, Chris. Former Liberals Defence Minister Christopher Pyne, welcome to you.
Thank you. It's nice to be here.
National Senator and Shadow Minister Bridget McKenzie, you have already chimed in, thank you.
She has.
And our National Affairs Editor for the Nine Network, Andrew Probert.
Lovely to be here.
Thank you. Let's get into the seats, Ali. Counting is underway, and the first seat we're going to go to is the wonderful folk of Tasmania. Let's go to the seat of Braddon. Charles, tell us about how that is shaping up.
Braddon is a seat that bounces around a bit, and there is a hope amongst Labor it will bounce around again, and they would love those numbers early. Now, I have to say, it's important to look at the top there. It says 3.3% counted. So this is early days. But anything like that would be great news for Anne Urquhart, who's left her seat in the Senate, trying to win that back for Labor. Nice numbers early.
Charles, quickly jumping in, that figure, 3.3% counted, when can we start going, OK, we've got something to hang our hat on, this is OK?
This is what our decision desk will look at. It depends on what part of the night we're at and indeed what kind of seat it is too. There'll be some really safe seats that you'll look at 5%. If the trend is pretty similar, you can go with it. This one is not one of those because there's lots of different issues at play. It's a different makeup to last time. I think once you get to sort of 10, 15, 20%, then you get an idea. We also look at which booth the vote comes from because, as Christopher pointed out before, often there are sections of an electorate that are very pro-Liberal, section of the electorate very pro-Labor, and so you've got to weigh those up. That's all our decision desk's doing, and that's what they'll do when they start to allocate some of the seats.
That's because
as well.
Christopher Pyne got shredded very early and then resurrected.
Well, it does make a big difference. Like Braddon, for example, if the booths are all in the city of Burnie, right, which is the largest industrial town, well, that will tell a particular story compared to some of the dairy farming areas of outer parts of the electorate. So that will... It's a bit early to say, is what I'm saying.
Yes, incredibly, with all of them.
Very.
Let's go to Wanganui, Victoria, because the Liberals' Dan Tehan here, he's in the fight for his political career.
He is Dan Tehan, who is one of the long-term frontbenchers. He is challenged by Alex Dyson. They will come at him from all angles at that. Alex Dyson's his third go at having a crack at this. He's got an 8% swing to him. Again, it's early, but if Dan Tehan's going to get 49.8% of the vote, he is going to win that seat again. It is early, but you'd like that.
Our next seat we're going to have a look at is Calare in New South Wales. It is a key seat to watch, a bit messy with a couple of independents in this.
2 independents plus the National, and we know that Bridget's got her hat there. And that is the kind of messy election you'd see. Sam Faraway, who is... this was a seat that was won by Andrew Gee as a National. He then left the Nationals, and he's now standing again as an independent. Kate Hook's a really popular local, sort of teal-backed independent out there. I've been told she's done a lot of work on the booths. This is early in that seat, 1.9. Big electorate, big swings between Lithgow and Orange, and so that's what we're seeing now.
We've also heard that Labor's been running dead, obviously, which is another thing we're going to see in other seats throughout the night. But it is very early with 1.9% counted, and I'm pretty sure this will be small rural booths waiting to come in. So interesting figures and a long way to go in this one.
You've got to be a little bit worried about that seat, though. There's been a lot of talk about it in the weeks leading up to today.
Well, I know Sam's run a really positive campaign. It's got, as we were saying earlier, Lithgow. We've got Bathurst and Orange as the really major centres who are very distinct socio-demographic and economic centres. So it is going to play out differently depending on which booths are coming in when.
Also one of the places that was earmarked for a nuclear power plant
Lithgow,
in the future.
yep.
So
See
we'll watch
how
that one tonight.
plays out.
Yeah.
Can you run us through Ryan in Queensland, Charles?
Yeah, Ryan is one of the seats that went to the Greens last time around, part of Greensland. This is probably traditionally a Liberal Party seat. A 3-cornered contest there. Wow, that's an interesting figure. 2.7%. Rebecca Hack is making ground for Labor. The Liberal vote's going backwards. Again, we keep caveating, early, but if Elizabeth Watson-Brown, who is the current sitting member, ends her night there, her preferences would likely flow to Labor, and that would likely be a Labor pickup if that continued. You've got to be happy with that.
Well, I've always been upbeat about our chances in Ryan and the other 2 Queensland seats. Look, it is way too early. We should just say generally, with the massive pre-poll vote, which is up considerably, I think that is an extra reason for caution across the board, because it means 2 things. It means a lot of votes we won't see until later, and because so many pre-poll, the pre-poll booths are so big, they will take longer to count. And we won't see decent-sized pre-poll booths until after 9 p.m. So I certainly, for one, will be reluctant to call or concede seats too early before we start seeing pre-poll results, but that's pretty encouraging.
But in saying that...
Yeah, look, you'd rather be...
you'd rather be us on that.
But just,
that's right.
Chris, on that point about pre-poll, explain why it's so significant. It's that pre-poll is an older voter?
We do think, in this instance today, that the average pre-poll voter would be older. And that tends to mean more conservative historically. So that is a cause for caution for us. Certainly, as I said, we won't be claiming seats too early until we see some of those things.
And we saw this in the Queensland election where it looked like it favoured Labor and then came back.
Exactly. And just simply when you've got almost half the electorate having voted and not being reflected in the figures that we're seeing today that are being counted on the day, you've just got to be that bit more cautious. A lot of these people voted at the beginning of the campaign. You know, it seems like ancient history. And so certainly that is a cause for just a bit of caution about calling things too early.
Those figures, though, track with what the Greens say they're seeing. They say the Greens vote's holding up, the Liberal vote has collapsed. So we'll see if that plays out.
Let's move on to the seat of Bonner now in Queensland, of course, named after Neville Bonner, the first Aborigine to serve in the Australian Parliament.
And a Liberal, of course.
And a Liberal.
The Prime Minister was on pre-poll here. If those votes hold up, it won't be Liberal for that long. Ross Faster has held the seat for a long time. He's getting 30%. Cara Cook's had a great night so far. She's up 12% compared to that. Booth last time, it's early, we know. With the Green vote, that'd be enough.
Some commentators are saying that the Labor Party vote could be as much as between 1.5% and 2%, actually higher tonight than it will end up being 2PP because of the pre-polls. And an interesting thing about pre-polls in terms of counting, Chris Bowen talked about the counting. I've been told that they have actually put the first preference votes in piles for the pre-polls across Australia in the booths. And they've never done that before. They've always waited and started from the beginning, and so that they can at least count the first preferences straight off the bat tonight, starting at 6 o'clock. So yes, I agree we won't get a lot of results tonight, but it won't be quite as bad as it's been in previous years, or slow as it's been in previous years.
OK, we've been saying too early to really say anything, except maybe in this one, Maranoa in Queensland.
It is the first seat.
I will be very surprised.
You'll notice on the
You'll
bottom...
get up and leave if this doesn't go the way you think.
You'll notice on the bottom of the screen we have the target of 76, ALP on 0. The Coalition, was on 1, just lost it. It'll be this one. David Littleproud with 51.2% of the vote. This is tracking as it is. Because it's such a varied seat, you actually get a pretty quick count on Maranoa as well. He's losing some skin. Another place where there's a nuclear power plant going in, but still more than enough. 51.2, anyone's going to be happy with that tonight.
Congratulations, David Littleproud.
But the Gerard Rennick candidate hasn't done that well in Maranoa, and I thought that they might. So Gerard Rennick was a LNP senator, lost his pre-selection, is running quite a decent campaign across Queensland. There's a lot of support in terms of handing out votes, but Maranoa, he got quite a set against David Littleproud, and he made no impact there, which is interesting from the Senate later on.
OK, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to go now to Geelong in Victoria, to the Deputy Prime Minister of Australia, Richard Marles. Richard, Peter Overton and Ali Langdon here. Good evening to you. How are things shaping up from the Deputy PM's point of view?
Well, I still think, obviously, in terms of the numbers that have come in, it's too early to really get a sense of it. So, if I'm really being honest, this is the moment in the whole cycle where I feel the most nervous and probably the most pessimistic, but that's really just a reflection of my personality more than anything else. But we do feel like we have executed the campaign in the way that we've wanted to, and we really feel like it's been a good campaign, that our messages have resonated in correct Corangamite, which is my neighbour seat, where there was a very significant contest. We feel really good about that. And indeed across Victoria, I think as the campaign has worked its way through, people have seen that this is a federal campaign, that the fundamental choice is one between Peter Dutton and Anthony Albanese, and that's a choice which is very clear.
Mr Miles, you'd be very happy to know, we're just looking at your numbers now, you're sitting at 43.7% with an enormous 0.2% of the vote counted, so read into that what you will.
The Rhino's a seat where they have to put a lot of money in to get the candidate.
That was Christopher Pyne.
I can tell that voice. That was Christopher, of course.
Christopher Pyne, got anything else you want to throw at Richard Miles tonight?
Time to give somebody else a go.
No, we did that for a long time.
We did. We had the worst show on television for 3 years. A lot of fun.
So
yeah, we did more than 100 episodes.
Richard, being out at the polling booths and all today, what is the sentiment that you are hearing from people?
Look, again, I don't feel like I'm the best judge of this. I mean, by and large, I think when people go to vote, they are normally keep things to themselves and they're pretty polite. I do think that the reception felt good to me in terms of what we were putting forward. And again, I think cost of living has clearly been the key issue in this election campaign, and it's very much been the heart of the policy agenda that we've been putting to the country. And so when we've put forward things, for example, the biggest investment in Medicare since its creation, that really was a policy which resonated very well, where we did get a good response. When we talked about cutting student debt, again, something that was resonating really well. So all of those issues which went to cost of living, I think spoke to the challenges that obviously people are feeling, and we'll see what judgment they ultimately make in relation to that. But it felt like it was the right thing for us to do as a government, and it was the right campaign to run.
Richard, have you spoken to the Prime Minister in the last little while and how he felt wrapping up today and indeed wrapping up the 5 weeks?
Yeah, so I spent the last 3 days with the Prime Minister on the campaign trail, and in fact I did give him a call this afternoon. Again, the answer to that question was that I rang him at half-time in the Rabbitohs match, which was going very badly, and so he told me that he'd stopped watching rugby league altogether, so that probably informed his mood there. But he was in good spirits over the last few days. I mean, everyone's tired. He had put everything that there is on the field. He feels really satisfied with the campaign that we've run. I think his performance has been exceptional, and I think this is as well as Anthony's ever performed in his life. And I think there was a man who feels like he's done everything that is within his power to do, and it's now a matter for the Australian people. But he was in good spirits, is the answer to that question.
Richard, it's Charles Croucher. How much responsibility do you think yourself as the senior Victorian in the government and indeed the Victorian caucus hold tonight to keep that Labor vote high, given that's where the coalition are coming at you?
Well, I mean, Victoria has been a stronghold for us federally for a long time. And so, there's a lot of seats to defend here, but it's really important that we are able to achieve that outcome, and that's been our focus in Victoria throughout the course of the campaign. So the honest answer, Charles, is there's a heavy sense of responsibility that I've felt and that we've all felt in relation to the campaign that needed to be run in Victoria. And I think it's also fair to say that this election, more than probably any since I've been in Parliament, has been in Victoria. Like, there's been more seats in play here, it's felt, than any election since I came into the Parliament in 2007. So it feels like there's been a much greater level of intensity and activity here in Victoria. And again, I mean, I feel nervous really about what the outcome's going to be. We'll find out what it is soon enough. But I do think we've done everything we can to put the best case forward.
And Richard, final question. You've got one eye on Logan City tonight because your son's in a mixed martial arts fight. How's he preparing?
Well, I spoke to him this afternoon as well, and he's feeling pretty nervous as well, but very zen. They get like that, MMA fighters, about this time out. So he was had his podcast going and listening to trying to get his mind off the event. But we think he'll be on around 10:30 tonight. It depends a bit on how the earlier fights go. But it's a really big night for him, and so that is another source of anxiety for me.
It's just a big night all round in the Miles household. Anyway, good luck tonight. It looks like the party's starting already. Enjoy that, and we appreciate your time. I'm going to go now to the seat of Bean in the ACT, which interesting one to look at quite early. Andrew Probyn, you're keen to look at this one because I wouldn't have really thought this would be on the radar as a safe Labor seat.
Well, look, this has got a big margin to David Smith of 13%. The reason this one is interesting is look at the performance there of the independent Jesse Price. Now, I'm told that the Libs are running dead in Bean, which means that they'll be out of the race soon enough and expect to at least come third there. But it means that Jesse Price has a chance. I mean, we're looking at a very small count, but both majors are looking at Bean. Now, if she were to pinch this seat, it tells the broader story about how exhaustive preferential votes work, that you can benefit from the flow on, and this is why people have got strong interest in Dixon for example.
Yeah. That's the...
Dixon, you've got Peter Dutton, who's up against a panoply of opponents, and they'll tumble away from him. Now, he started off, he got 42% of the vote in the 2022 election. Pollsters reckon he might need 45% of the primary vote to hold safe. So this story here with David Smith, and he got 42% or 43% in the last election. He's down to 38.8 on this small count. But it just tells that broader story and how complicated tonight might be.
Andrew, thank you. You were talking about Peter Dutton and the seat of Dixon. Let's go live to Karl Stefanovic, who is at Liberal Party headquarters. And Karl, you've just spoken to the opposition leader.
Yeah, look, he arrived here about an hour ago and we just started receiving all those facts and figures about how far Anthony Albanese had travelled on this campaign, some 40,000 Ks. Well, Peter Dutton's travelled something in the order of 64,000 Ks. He's gone almost once or twice around the world in order to secure votes. It's been a difficult campaign, though, he admitted that. But I did, a short time ago, catch up with him in one of the dark and dingy corridors here at Liberal Party HQ. Good to see you.
Good to see you too.
Long campaign, finished up.
Been a long campaign. I think everyone's still running on fumes, but there's some wonderful people we've met and moved from one side of the country to the other. Heard some really harrowing stories about people who are doing it tough. But our marginal seat members have worked really hard, so I'll wait to see the results now.
What does it feel like to finally finish 64,000 Ks you travelled and to tools down?
Look, it's a relief, and it's nice to be with your family, and we have an opportunity to sit down, have a meal, look at the numbers, and we'll start to get. I don't think we'll see any meaningful numbers for another hour or so. You need those pre-poll numbers, which have been in huge numbers, and traditionally that favours us quite significantly. So I think the early numbers you see will be distorting if they're just from today. So let's see how it goes over the next hour.
Still hopeful, obviously.
Yeah, look, I think the feedback from our marginal seat members over the course of the day has been that there's been a very positive response, and certainly a positive response through the week with pre-polling.
How do you cope with all the pile-on that you've seen over the last 5 weeks, and even today they're saying, "Oh, who's going to be next?" And
well, I've got no more hair to lose, right? So, look, I just think you just deal with each issue, each situation as it comes along. You stick to your values and stick to what you believe in, and that's what we've done during the course of this campaign as well.
You wouldn't be thinking beyond here?
No, I think we want to see some of those key booth results, and as I say, you really want to see the pre-polling numbers, given that 30, 40, 50%, depending on the seats, of people voted before today, and traditionally, if they're older Australians, they're more our way and they voted earlier, and we want to see all of those numbers together.
2 miracles?
I think we believe in miracles, but it's tough. I mean, a first-term government hasn't lost since 1931. And the government's run a campaign which obviously has been effective in terms of the mud that they've thrown, and people have accepted some of those lies. And we have exceptional candidates in the field, though, and I think that offsets some of it.
People don't talk about this very often on election night, but how's the family? How's Kiralee, Rebecca, Tom, Harry?
Yeah, really well, thank you, mate. They're good, they're stoic, and they're proud, and as I am of them. So we're a tight family, and I'm really proud of
I
that.
have a feeling Harry will just celebrate no matter what.
They could be starting shortly.
All right, good to talk to you.
Thanks, Carl. Good to see
I
you,
hope
mate.
you're
Thank
watching Nine's election coverage.
Always,
today.
always.
All right, thank you, mate.
Take
Appreciate
care.
it.
Thank you.
So that was Peter Dutton a short time ago upstairs, and we're thankful for him to be able to spend a little bit of time with us. He then went inside, and it's just ostensibly him and his family watching those results come in on the Right Network this evening. We'll continue to update you throughout the course of the evening as far as results go here at Liberal HQ. Even though you still need to take this up with Christopher Pyne, there's still no drink through. I don't know what's going on. Desperate scenes.
You are at the wrong party, Carl, because the Greens party, the spirits were flowing before the polls even closed.
Yeah.
I'm sure
Well,
it's not just the spirits of the
on the
Greens.
short straw.
I'm not sure Carl's invited to the Greens party.
Strange thought, hey Carl, but you've got a credit card in that wallet of yours.
Oh, no. And
Pull
moths.
it out and...
And moths. All the moths will come out and fly around the bloody ballroom in bloody Brisbane.
There's not many
Do you have
people to
that Nine
shout
Network
anyway.
credit card?
You're the
that
reason
note.
why they cancelled all of our credit cards.
All right.
I was wondering.
Good stuff. We'll check in with you soon, Carl. Thanks for that. Let's take a look now at Richmond in New South Wales, Charles.
Yeah, this is the far north coast of New South Wales. This would be on the Greens target list. Now, there is a concern with the count here because it seems the two-party count that I'm getting through from the ASC is a Labor versus Nat seat, and this clearly isn't a Labor versus Nat seat. It's a Labor versus Green seat. Now, on 5% of the vote, so that's what, 1 in 20 votes have been counted, the Greens is losing ground, and Justin Elliott, who is currently the sitting member, is gaining ground. Now, this is one of those seats where the Greens may win, but if Labor comes second, the Nationals' preferences will flow through to Labor usually, and that flows through to some of those minor parties as well. Anytime you are gaining votes and you are the sitting member, it's a good time for you. So Justin Elliott, while it's close, would be happy with that so far.
Charles, if there was a key bellwether seat in this election, it's Robertson, the southern half of the central coast of New South Wales. It's marginal to say the least. We have some early numbers through.
Where goes Robertson, so goes the government. That's been the rule since Bob Hawke's days. And right now, we're seeing Dr. Gordon Reid gain ground. He is the sitting member. Yep. He is gaining votes. That's about that margin for the early vote v on-the-day vote margin, about 1.5%, 2%. So that could be explained there. It's Lucy Wicks going backwards that I can't explain for 7%, and going backwards a big way. Hard to win from 30% if you're a Liberal, given there's One Nation votes coming, but not much after that.
What about Leichhardt in Queensland? Because Warren Entsch is retiring. Any looks of a change there?
Yeah, there is. Labor's very hopeful. This one, Leichhardt's in the far north of Queensland. Matt Smith, who is a basketball player and looks like a basketball player, has picked up about 9.6% on the last count. The Libs have only won this when Warren Entsch has been on the ballot since about 2000. So there was a real hope from Labor that this could be one of the seats. I don't think you would have dreamed of going that well. Again, it's early.
Great candidate, Matt Smith. I've been up there. I think we've all campaigned with him. You know, you get a feel with a candidate when you walk around with them and the whole community pats them on the back. Well, not him actually, because he's too tall. But, you know, g'day Matt, how you going? And, yeah, Warren, I think, had a very significant personal vote, and that's been lost.
Yep.
OK, to the seat of Bradfield in New South Wales. It's Sydney's upper North Shore. It is a key seat. We have Paul Fletcher retiring from that seat, and the Independent is really having a crack at this.
Yeah, this is a teal target. Nicolette Buller is the teal there. This is almost the inverse of what Probes was talking about with Bean, where unless Giselle Kaptarian can get up to sort of 45%, they'll swarm from all over the place, the minor parties, the Greens, the Labor, and all flow through, you would think, to the teal there. 6.6% counted. That's not nothing, but it's not a significant sample size. 10% swing towards the teal, 6% swing away from the Lib. That is the projected preference, the two-party preferred. That would be a big result for the Independent and a bad result for the Liberal Party. Again, it's too early.
I know we keep saying too early, but I also feel like every seat we've looked at, I mean, if you're sitting at home right now watching going, this looks like it's going to be a terrible night for the Coalition, and that Labor's sitting pretty, like it does. I know it's very early,
well,
but
Labor behind the scenes has been saying that it's going to look pretty good initially.
Yeah.
But there will be a correction somewhere between 8:30 and 9 when we get the pre-polls in. Is that right, Katie?
Well, that's what we think, that our strong boost will be on polling day, and you see a more conservative vote come in through the pre-polling, and we know how many people have been pre-polling. Anyone who's done any time on the pre-polls, you know, millions of Australians. So that's due, I think, between 8:30 and 9. So, you know, that's, I think, a key time to wait for.
Can I ask you guys, why do you think so many people
Yeah.
pre-polled? What was it that got them there, Bridget?
I was on a lot of pre-poll, and I think part of it was to get their Saturday for football and netball, but also taking advantage of knowing who they were going to vote for. And so we had a lot of positive vibes on the pre-poll. So I agree with Katie that we need to wait to see those pre-poll booths get in, and I imagine a lot of these will tighten.
I also think the pre-polls, we really don't have an election day anymore. We have an election voting period. Today is the last day of that election voting period. And I think people, now that they realise that they can pre-poll, and they don't have to have many excuses to pre-poll, they just think, great, I'll just get it out of the way, I can do it. No,
but perhaps we should ask Bridget if she were Prime Minister. Would you allow pre-poll?
I'm a bit of a dork about data, so I like a point-in-time representation. And so the whole point of having an election is, what does the whole country think at this point of time about their political system or a candidate? And that's what it was sort of set up
But
to
also,
do.
it's really important when you have a poor campaign or one that develops late, like your side, it can make a difference.
Well, I often do ask people, say, yesterday on Friday night, they're trying to get it done so they can go away for the weekend. I say, but what if we have something really super to announce tomorrow? You know, like, so there is, does anybody change their mind in that 2 weeks?
Has that been the problem with your campaign, that you've left everything too late?
I think it has been the problem with your campaign.
People were waiting for something.
But it is a genuine question. Do people who vote early sometimes by the end of the campaign go, geez,
I always
feels
used
a
to
bit like
encourage
taking away
people to
working from
pre-poll.
home, doesn't it?
Yeah.
When I was the member for Sturt, I would always send out a letter with a how to vote card saying you should go and pre-poll.
Now.
And the Electoral Commission rang me and said, you're not allowed to do that. And I said, but I want people going and pre-polling because then they're more likely to stick with the incumbent, because so much happens in the last week or two of a campaign and it can go hideously wrong, so you take your votes when you can get them.
Well, let's see what's happening in Gilmore in New South Wales, because, of course, Andrew Constance of the Libs is having another crack at this seat, which is held by Fiona Phillips.
He is. This is probably number 1, 2 or 3 on the list the Liberal Party have to win if they are going to take back government, and right now they are not winning it. That's a 11.6% count. This is a big count now. We're talking serious counts. And the vote is coming away from Andrew Constance. He got within 300-odd votes last time around. He's lost 10%. Fiona Phillips has gone north. Yeah.
That's not looking good.
No.
There's only about 370-odd votes in it last time,
There
wasn't
was, exactly that. I keep caveating saying it's early and there is that late shift.
Good on Fiona Phillips.
Yeah.
I mean, she
But
is
10%.
such a hard-working Member of Parliament, a quiet achiever. Plenty of people in the commentariat wrote her off, and she's looking
Well, that's the
healthy.
projected preference there, 55.9%. That'd move it into like a moderately safe territory from being the most marginal in the country.
I think if anything tonight, Charles, there's nothing moderately safe
That's a
in the
good point.
Australian
Yeah.
political system.
Good point.
OK, let's go to the seat of Griffith now in Queensland. It is a Green seat. It is Kevin Rudd's former seat. And this will tell a story tonight. This is one that we are watching closely.
Yeah, this is a race effectively to second when it comes to where Labor and the Greens stand. Now, as it stands there, Renee Coffey's gained 8.4%. She's got herself ahead of Max Chandler-Mather, who is the current sitting member. But if it's the Labor and Greens candidates that finish 1-2, happy days for Labor, because the Liberal Party preference would more likely go to Labor than the Greens, and that will get her over the line. If the Liberal can get themselves into that mix, then it gets a bit more complicated. Again, 7.7, but in this situation, you can't say it's a shift for time, because the Greens would vote early. Great result for Labor.
Yeah, another one where you'd rather be us than them.
Yeah,
and again, Renee Coffey, just what an outstanding candidate. And, you know, as I said, I've thought for a while we're a decent chance in all 3 seats. We'll see about them, particularly Brisbane, which we haven't looked at yet. But on those figures, you'd take comfort.
All right, because I know you're also looking at your phones and you've all got, you know, your people sending you messages all the time.
Yes.
Katie, what's the vibe coming in from your team at the moment?
Well, I think it's very much what we've been talking about here too, really, again, and cautious about that first couple of hours of this campaign. But seeing this is certainly heartening, and seeing Renee Coffey in that position. She has worked for months, door knocking, incessantly across that electorate. A marvellous candidate, and I would be so thrilled if she was able to take that seat off Mr Chandler Mather.
Yeah, I mean, and Charles, you pointed to, you thought that perhaps the Greens wouldn't have a great night tonight. Let's look then at Brisbane. Another Queensland
this
seat.
is another one of
obviously.
the Greens seat in Queensland, in the centre. This was a Liberal seat before the Greens took it last time. Trevor Evans is the former member. He is now sitting in the lead of that count. But this is what I was talking about, where if the Liberal gets in there, then Madonna Jarrett, on those count, would become the member, because Stephen Bates' votes, plus some of those from the minor parties, would more likely flow through to Madonna Jarrett, and that would get her over the line.
Yeah, both sides were saying before today that it was going to come down to a knife fight between Libs and Labor in that seat. I think we should look at Bruce as well at some point.
Well, Trevor's a fantastic candidate. There's issues about aviation noise, whether Labor took that seriously or not. But I do think there's a lot of Labor voters that won't preference Greens against the card and would prefer to go to a Liberal.
Ironically, I think if the Labor Party comes third in Brisbane, which doesn't look like it right now, but it's early days, Trevor Evans is in a much better position.
Andrew, we've just put the seat of Bruce up in Victoria for you.
This is also telling you something of a story. Now, again, small count, 2.5, but already 8% up. Julian Hill sitting MP, and down 10% with the Lib candidate there. But small count, but not insignificant.
OK, Bowman in the seat of Queensland, a LNP seat. Considered safe, Charles?
Yeah, not far from Bowman is Petrie, if we can get that on the agenda too at some stage. This is an LNP seat. It is considered safe. But look at the skin that's been lost by Henry Pike there. He down to 34%. That makes that really competitive. Now, I think this is one of those ones that will shift because the count is still so close. 10% in, though, on that count, it's going to be a really close fight because the Greens have got enough there. Again, this is what the Greens are saying. Their vote's holding up, the Liberal vote's dropping. We're starting to get those messages from a few places. So that would flow through to a pretty close count. When you go two-party, Henry Pike, the other computer says it would be OK. A 2% swing, though. Yeah, the One Nation votes come through.
What was the One Nation count there?
I was just adding them all.
Can we just have a look? What was that? What was that One Nation count?
It was about 5 or 6.
Right, OK.
7.5%.
One Nation vote in Bruce was about 9%, right? So even though our candidate's vote was only 21%, almost all of that 9% One Nation vote
get you to
will
30.
come to us. Well, not all of it will come to us, but more because they have not always preferenced the coalition in the past, and they've preferenced us everywhere.
Charles, we've got Petrie for you.
Excellent. Let's look at Petrie. Again, used to be a sort of swing seat during the Kevin Rudd days. This is a real worry for the Liberal Party, that figure. For Luke Howarth, who's been there a long time, has all the advantages of incumbency. I think he's on the front bench now, might be a shadow cabinet member. You're going to need a big shift late if that's the way things are going, if you're losing 8%, and that would flow through to the ALP winning. Did anyone have Petrie on the list?
But Trump and One Nation Party are about, what, 11.5%.
That gets you to 40.
Might get you across.
Let's wait for the pre-polls.
And you've also got no pre-polls counted, no postals counted. Although I must admit, I'm not feeling very comfortable at the moment.
That's
So this
breaking
is what
out the
Christopher
confetti
Pine
cannons just yet.
looks like.
I'm breaking out the confetti cannons just
It'll
yet.
be a long night for you then, Christopher Pine. All right, well, let's go now to Annika Wells, who's in the seat of Lily. Nice to see you, Annika. Queensland looking all right for you guys? Just keep it coming.
Good evening, everyone. Beautiful one day, perfect the next. Welcome to Queensland.
Hey, Annika, you can't see your numbers there, but we can tell you've got a swing towards you of close to 4%, sitting at 45.8 as your primary vote. Does that sit OK with you tonight?
I mean, it feels great, but it feels early, and obviously there's always a distinction between votes on the day and early voting, and having stood there for 2 weeks and eyeballed everybody coming in, I remember it felt a little bit more testy and a little bit more ready early last week, so we'll stand by and we'll wait patiently.
Because Peter Dutton has been talking about he wants this election to be a judgment of the last 3 years, not of the campaign. Have you felt any of that anger from people towards you when it comes to issues of cost of living and promises that were made 3 years ago?
I mean, you'll expect me to say this, but the answer is no. Overwhelmingly, the response I get from people as they walk in or as we've door-knocked them, and we've door-knocked more than 20,000 homes across the north side here, is thank you for trying. You know, people aren't mugs. They appreciate that these are global factors that are affecting every country that we choose to compare ourselves, and they see people like us trying hard to help them and what we can, pushing what levers we can, and overwhelmingly it's been positive.
Katie?
So, Annika, hi, it's Katie here. How are you going?
Hey, Katie. Great. How are you?
You must be exhausted, mate. How many pairs of shoes have you run through this campaign?
I mean, I've got a vast shoe wardrobe, so it's a pleasure to, as we say in Lily, our operating campaign slogan here is it's not a campaign, it is a cam pleasure. And we have found that as we've gone street by street across the north side. But I've also found, I would say, if you look at the performance of the team and yourself, Katie, people appreciate our efforts. And if you look at the performance of the Prime Minister across the campaign, I mean, name a week he lost, name a day he lost. And I think that's evident in the results that we're seeing tonight.
Well done, Annika.
Annika will be tipped for promotion to the cabinet with that kind of...
Annika's in the cabinet.
Oh, she's in the cabinet.
Yes.
Oh,
Evening,
well
Christopher.
done.
How are you?
Congratulations.
Christopher just dumped you from the cabinet.
I'm just imagining that every morning at 5:30 getting up and
Must have
looking in
been
the
the
mirror
last
going,
week,
cam pleasure,
Cam pleasure,
cam pleasure. Almost. But well done, it's been a very
It's
long
actually
campaign.
earlier than that. It's about 4:50.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Right,
Well,
thank you
Ali's
so
used
much,
to that from
everybody.
the Today Show. Thank you very much. Oh, look at that. We know where we're on tonight.
Yeah.
Thank you, Annika. OK, we've got some news through now on Dixon in Queensland. Of course, that is the opposition leader's seat, Peter Dutton. Charles?
There is a swing on in Queensland at the moment, given the numbers we have now, and that swing stretches to the leader of the opposition. 9.5% of the vote counted. Peter Dutton is down to 29.9%. That would be that's a messy seat, isn't it? Ali France has got about a third of the vote. I mean, given the margin's so tight, any time you lose 10% of the vote, it's bad. This is concerning for the Liberal Party.
But this was a seat where he had to get sort of mid-40s, wasn't it, as his primary
That
vote?
that was the thought, yeah. He started off at 42 last election. And, yeah, that looks not good.
Well, the only caveat I'd put on that is that Ellie Smith has a open ticket, so she's not recommended preferences.
And explain how that affects the vote.
Well, I mean, of course, any voter can ultimately decide their own preferences. They don't have to follow a party ticket, but when a candidate has given you how to vote, you are going to see a much higher flow to one candidate or another. The independent candidate there has said, over to you, you decide where your preferences go. Now, you would think that if you're voting Teal, you're more likely to preference Labor. If you're choosing, to vote against the leader of the opposition on those sorts of matters, but it's not going to be 100% preference flow, far from it. So I agree, you'd rather be Ali France at the moment than Peter Dutton, but a bit to go there yet. That's a very messy count.
There's a lot of... Haven't there 12 candidates or 14 candidates in Dixon? It's a huge number of candidates.
It is. There's our projected two-party swing. Would have Ali France on 60.2%. I mean, that would be an earthquake in Queensland if that happened.
Well, I think the purple's right. It's too early to call, Charles.
Yes. I know, but it's not too early to be a little worried, Bridget, I think is the point he's making. Let's look at Bass in Tasmania and see what's going on there if Tassie's bucking that trend.
Yeah, Bass is Bridget Archer's seat. She's been there for a long time, long been a sort of thorn in the side of Scott Morrison for a while there in the Parliament, across the floor. She's had an independent almost appeal in the seat of Bass. That appeal isn't stretching. Labor love Jess Teasdale.
Oh, yeah.
They have loved her for a long time.
She's a ripper.
She introduced the Prime Minister when he launched the Medicare program, which was the highest spending program of the entire election. They think she's great, and those numbers, if you're going for Labor, are great as well.
She's another wonderful candidate, young woman, teacher down in Tasmania. Yeah, just fantastic. I was with her on the booze. Look, I just want a broad point about the pre-polling booze. I've never seen it quite so febrile as I've seen. Bass was one of these, where there was a lot of people. Certainly the Brethren were down there en masse, handing out for the Liberal Party, and it was very, very tense in a number of those seats. But Jess is, she's just an incredible candidate. She's done the hard work down in Tasmania. And it pays off on election night.
Yeah.
Yeah, seeing that there.
OK, guess who's on the line? Jackie Lambie.
Oh, g'day,
Jackie.
Jackie.
Peter Overton and Ali Langdon in Sydney. How are you? And welcome.
Sorry, guys. Sorry, guys.
You might have to tell the troops. Oh, it was just a hello and how are you, and keep the troops quiet while we can talk to you.
Oh, good luck.
Looking at the it's basically a swing towards Labor there, the ALP member. What are you feeling and seeing and hearing?
Yeah, I thought that might be a problem because Bridget, it's not that she hasn't been active, but she was up against Scott Morrison and obviously crossing the floor and showing her strength back then. And I just think she's had a much quieter 3 years, unfortunately for Bridget. So I'd imagine between they'll end up being a Labor seat with the Green preferences, I would think. So that's been an upset, fairly upset for the night. I could see a turn just before Christmas time and thinking, oh, Bass may have half a chance here. So, and certainly we're seeing it in Bradham with Anne Urquhart. And then, of course, what's going on with Peter George down there in Franklin. So Julie Collins might be under a bit of pump at the moment as well.
Tassie's just interesting to look at the moment, and talking to Annika Wells and Richard Marles and what they've sort of been hearing from people at booths. It's probably get a clearer idea from someone like you, Jackie, because I feel like people come up and they just unload. What are people telling you about how they're feeling about both major parties at the moment and this election?
Yeah, I think with most people, they've just had enough, to be honest. I mean, I think we're all about election day. Well, we've had one in Queensland, one in New South Wales. There was a state election here last year. So, you know, I think that they're really feeling it over that cost of living, and you could just see it over the last few weeks. I think with the Liberals not releasing their policies and their costings, and that's actually really done them some harm. They just did not look like the team that wanted to win in the last few weeks. I think they really slowed down, and that was a real problem. So that's what's been happening down here. It's just like Labor, they're a lot more hungrier for the election, and they're everywhere, certainly down here. If you're looking at call flutes and stuff like that, they're everywhere.
Did you have many volunteers out and about today, Jackie? We're sort of hearing that no one really saw your team.
No, we don't have volunteers out on polling day on the Saturday. I haven't done that. For myself, I haven't done that this election or last election. Quite frankly, I've stood at those polling booths, and most people that I see coming through on a Saturday, they've had enough and they're not taking anything. And quite frankly, they just want to get in there and take their vote. So to be honest with you, so I pull them off. Yeah, and I hear some of those, you know, some of those polling places down here have been a little bit, you know, there's been a bit of stuff going on at them. So, you know, I'd just rather not have volunteers involved in any of that stuff. They can come off Saturday. So it's been, you know, so we don't have that.
Yep.
So, Jackie, what's it going to...
We're not running lower house, so we're not running lower house seats either, mate. So I don't have... I call them draft horses out there. So it's just two. We're just running on the Senate ticket down here. That's it. So, and I mean that politely, and they know that because when you run people, they're looking at about 10%. I got them in my little draft horses because they pull the wagon. So we haven't had all that down here, you know. So, yeah, it's been a much quieter campaign for me, to be honest with you. So
very quickly, what's it going to look like at the end of the voting? What do you feel?
Well, I'm hoping that I've still got a job Monday morning. That'd be a good start. You know, it'd be nice to take a centre seat in. Well, I'd like to see Rex Patrick get up, obviously. You've got Glenn Colomet's here, and we have Angie Harper in Queensland. So let's see how the Senate ticket rolls in the next 24 hours, I guess, or 48 hours.
Sure.
Good stuff, Jackie. Always good to chat to you. Enjoy your night, all right? With you and your loud, very loud
Thanks
team
so
there
much.
behind you. Thanks, mate.
Good on you, Jackie.
Let's check out Kooyong now in Victoria. Of course, we've been talking about this seat a lot during the campaign, Charles.
We have. It has been a rather undignifying campaign in Kooyong. There's the figures early, 6.2% counted. Monique Ryan's vote is holding up. Amelia Hamer's vote is going backwards. That would read pretty well for Monique Ryan. It's rare to see two candidates with that higher first sort of preference vote this time around.
It's like 1980s again.
Yeah, it is. But with the Green and the ALP, that would be okay for Monique Ryan. She'd win that seat on those votes early. I don't know what the Teal vote does when it comes to pre-polling and on the night polling. We'll have to wait and see.
You can ask her, Charles, because she's standing by for us now in Kooyong. Monique Ryan, good evening.
Good evening, how are you?
I'm going to direct you straight to Charles Croucher.
Monique, congratulations on the campaign so far. You'd be happy with the early figures. How did it feel today compared to the pre-poll when you were talking to people, and did you notice a shift in the voter?
I have felt that over the last couple of weeks there's been a definite shift in that at the start of the campaign things were pretty willing and it was pretty tense actually on the streets of Kooyong, which is unusual for a part of the world which is usually fairly peaceful. But things have calmed down a bit in the last couple of weeks. It has felt like there's been a definite shift away from the coalition. People are really frustrated with Peter Dutton. People were more happy to talk about issues and policies rather than, you know, the biffo of the independent versus the Liberal that we were talking about a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, but what have you made of that ugliness, though?
It's been really tense across the country, and I think it'll be a really good opportunity after the dust settles, after this election settles, to look at things around how we run elections in this country, you know, how we set up polling booths, how we manage things like signage and the like. You know, there's people at polling booths around the country. When we have large numbers of people being trucked in from outside of the electorate to campaign on behalf of the Liberal Party, people who did not belong in the electorate and did not know the community, there was more than and I think we probably could do and have proved them.
Monique, there was a lot of talk from certain, you know, there'd be a reckoning today and tonight. Are you feeling that or not?
Well, look, what we've seen that in the last few federal elections, there's been a progressive fall in the vote that's gone to major parties. I haven't seen anything or heard anything in the electorate of Kooyong in the last 4 months which would suggest that that would not continue to be the case. People are frustrated. They're frustrated with the Albanese ALP and they've been very frustrated with Peter Dutton's coalition. And so I'd be surprised, actually, if there's any significant change in the size of the crossbench other than potentially an increase in the crossbench after tonight.
Yeah.
Well, looking at those early numbers coming in, sounds about right.
Monique Ryan, thank you for joining us from Kooyong. We'll leave you there. We wish you well. Let's go live to Carl Stefanovic now at Liberal HQ in Brisbane. Carl, you have a guest with you?
James Patterson is with me. Yeah, it's a pretty bleak vibe here at Liberal Party HQ. So I'm just looking at, I don't know how you're smiling. I mean, literally, how do you win?
Mate, that's too early to say. I think we've still got a lot of vote to count. What we've noticed in this campaign is a really big behavioural difference between people who vote early at pre-poll or do a postal vote and those who vote on the day. And I think what you'll see is when those pre-polls start to get counted later in this night, much better numbers for us. Our polling suggests that there can be as much as an 8% difference between the on-the-day vote and our pre-poll vote.
You're sugarcoating a little bit.
No, not at all, mate. Not at all. Wait and see. This is very early days. I think we've got about 5% of the vote counted. The on-the-day booths were always going to be better for Labor. Let's not make the same mistake that was made in the Queensland state election, where I think people were virtually calling it for Stephen Miles based on a small proportion of the on-the-day vote being counted. Let's wait until we've got more data.
A couple of seats of note. Let's talk about Dixon first up, if we can. And look, Peter Dutton is up against it there. What are you reading from those early numbers and that big swing?
Well, Labor absolutely went for Peter in this campaign more than any campaign previously. They poured in an enormous amount of money, and he also had Climate 200 funding a candidate to try and tear him down, plus a national advertising campaign from Labor in the tens of millions of dollars. It was very personal and very targeted to him. So, look, I'm not surprised if that has an effect, but he's been the local member there for 25 years now. He's held that since 2001. They have come for him before and he's held it, so let's wait and see.
You're pretty comfortable with that. All right, there's a couple of other ones that you mentioned to me. Bean, David Smith for Labor, looks like that's going to be hard for him. He's spectacularly anonymous. David Smith, isn't he? But he might lose that seat.
Well, I mean, this is one that was not on the radar really until the last couple of days, and we saw that YouTube advertising by Labor, which was a bit of a hint that they thought they were in trouble, and maybe they will be tonight.
Okay, what about Franklin, Julie Collins?
Yeah, so a cabinet minister who barely left her seat in the campaign, and now we know why. That anti-salmon independent has done very well there and could well come over the top, we'll see.
Okay, let's get on to your forehand, the seats that you look likely to win at this point.
Yeah, look, I can't say any seat that we're picking up yet, but that's only because it's early in the count, mate. Let's wait and see the pre-polls and posters come in.
It's not a great sign, though. You're giving me two Labor seats and you haven't got any wins of your own.
Well, let's wait and see. It really is very early, and I'm not at all discouraged yet by those on-the-day booths. It really is going to be quite different, I suspect, when those postals and pre-polls come in.
You still think you can somehow win?
Well, I think, look, winning government from here and majority government from here, well, that was always going to be a hard task, right? The last election was devastating. We lost 19 seats in the last election, and in this term of Parliament, we lost an extra one to a by-election, and 3 colleagues defected to the crossbench. So the first task was just to restore that and then add some to it. The historical example I point to is 2010. Tony Abbott was running against a government which had rolled its own Prime Minister and which had tried to introduce a carbon tax, and he only won 7 seats, right? So that, I think, is a good historical marker for us to compare to.
All right, there's been a couple of opposition leaders who've lost an election and come back, most notably and more recently. obviously John Howard. That was some years after his first try. If he loses tonight, there's always speculation, and there has been in the last 24 hours about Peter Dutton's leadership. Providing he wins his seat. Is that something you guys are rallying the troops for already?
Well, I'm very proud to have served Peter in this term of Parliament. He's a great man. You know him, I know him. He's a really good person and he always puts the national interest first. So if he wants to continue to serve in public life in any capacity, I'd welcome that.
Tough night for you guys.
Not yet, not yet. Let's wait and see.
All right. James is going to come back in a little bit to Ali and Pete. For the moment, it's back to you.
Good on you, Carl. Thank you. Christopher Pine, quick comment from you.
Well, my only quick comment would be that I've seen journalists reporting in the press that the Liberal Party's lost seats that they've then won when they've actually counted the pre-polls and the postals. So, you know...
Any particular seat come to mind, Christopher?
Well, Bragg, actually, in the state parliament in South Australia. And not my own, but, you know, it's very quick. People love to be the first person to call the election.
That's right.
You just can't do that anymore. There's too many pre-polls and postals.
In saying all that, can I make the point? Pre-polls and postals still to come. I can't see any scenario where the Liberal Party end up with a majority tonight.
No, there's no scenario where that was... But that was never going to happen in
Of course it was. You win 21 seats. That can happen.
The test of success is that does Anthony Albanese increase his majority? Anything less than that is a fail for the government.
You're saying that at 750.
Sorry?
It's
750.
true. It's true.
But
he set himself up a big majority man and like some sort of minority pathway for him.
Okay, so not only is...
You're a coalition.
I said that on Today this morning.
Coalition
about
majority...
12 hours ago.
Are you conceding you cannot win, Bridget?
I'm not conceding anything. Pre-polls, but I am saying
you did concede
that
coalition majority.
I'm saying that anything less than an increased majority for Anthony Albanese is a fail for the Labor government.
Isn't getting back in, isn't a win a win, however you get it?
It is a huge difference between, say, Julia Gillard's government in 2010 and Tony Abbott's government in 2013, where he had a majority. Look, I don't think there's any possibility of the coalition forming a government based on these figures or any likely change big enough for the coalition to win. But I think we've always known that, and that's why Peter Dutton's always said there's been no government that's lost after one term since 1931. The test is, will it be a minority Labor government? And does Peter Dutton win enough seats for the coalition to be competitive
for the next
in 3 years, right?
And we do
and
have...
that's what I'm saying is too early to know for sure.
That's right.
And we do have the numbers up there on screen for Franklin, and this is telling one of the stories within the story. You can see that Julie Collins, Minister of the Crown, she's down, or she was up by 1.4. However, the Independent, Peter George, Journo, he is he's not anti-salmon, he's anti-salmon fishing.
How could you be anti-salmon?
But there you go, 24.9, that's enormous.
Yeah.
And on that count, he's a damn good chance of pinching that.
Yeah.
Which makes it hard for Labor, sorry, Ali, which is starting to make it hard for Labor to form a majority government, right?
Well, it's part of the mix, but, you know, we're looking at those 3 Queensland
But that's true. So they can easily...
lose a cabinet minister.
We haven't touched on Fowler yet, where, you know, I think it's competitive. So, you know, I think you've got to look at the entire embroidery. Yeah, I agree, Franklin's looking, you know, I'd rather it looking much better at this point, but...
Well, Labor's looking very good in Brisbane.
Take a look here at Banks to New South Wales. This might help with the path that you're talking
about losing cabinet ministers, David Coleman's lost 7.6% of his vote, 15% of the vote in, so you're going to need all 8% of that variance that James Patterson thinks is out there when it comes to pre-poll compared to early vote, and it may be that case. But he is in real trouble with Zhi Sun, who is the Labor candidate. He's gained 2.8, the Greens have gained 3.5, so that Liberal vote's kind of scattered there. It hasn't just gone straight to Labor. There'd be some picking up on the One Nation vote as well. When it goes to the two-party flow-through, that goes to 54.5% for Zhi Sun. Still too early, but again, you'd rather be on the 54 than the 45.
Totally, and Banks is a seat we haven't held for quite a while, since 2013. It's always been a seat where we thought we might get a chance. We've all got them, where it's always, oh, maybe this time's the one. Well, maybe this time is the one.
Probably the first of the big sort of Chinese community votes too that we've seen, so that'll be interesting to see how that flows.
And we've got
going on.
And without getting ahead of ourselves, encouraging figures for us in Bennelong and and Reid as well.
We'll check in on them shortly. Let's have a look at the seat of Hughes, Charles.
Yeah, Hughes wasn't one I was really thinking we'd be doing a whole lot of today, but the numbers are fairly well, eye-catching for David Moncrief. He's up 14.1%. Jenny Ware on 38.1. It'd still be, it's close, isn't it, with the 5% One Nation vote. Losing about a 4.6% swing to the Liberal. We wait and see what happens later with that
You've got more
vote.
than 10%,
Yeah.
One Nation, Trump and Family First, all of which will benefit the Liberal Party. And we haven't even talked about the James Patterson effect. Which is
the 8%.
Apparently, when they count the pre-polls, there'll be
The 8%.
Is that
coming our way?
But was that a believable figure?
That's the James Patterson.
Is that believable?
Look, I definitely agree with James that the pre-polls and the postals will have a big effect, and a lot of Liberals have not voted on election day. But whether it's worth,
I don't know
whether
if
it's going to change the result of the election.
But it was very
dramatically.
positive on the pre-poll booths for us.
Yeah, it was positive for us on
that's true.
pre-poll as well. So,
But we always knew, similar to your data, Katie,
I
when
don't
you
think
said
8%
you thought your data from your people were saying that today would be, and we had the same. Yeah,
definitely. And so I think there is an element, and that's why we're being so cautious in all of our comments. But I think, I mean, James Patterson's had the very difficult job of being campaign spokesperson for the coalition, and I think saying that could contribute 8%, I think.
The thing, I don't want to be too nuanced either, but I remember that people used to say that the incumbents usually get a higher pre-poll and usually get a higher postal than the challengers, whether they're Labor or Liberal, right? So
got money to spend.
And they're well better known by them.
Let's take a look at Bennelong, John Howard's former seat. Of course, I think Christopher Pyne, you were keen to have a look at how this one was going.
No, I think it was Bendigo that I wanted to have a look
at. It's a long night.
While we're here.
Chris Bowen brought it
up. There's a reason Chris Bowen.
Wrong Chris.
The reason Chris Bowen brought it up, that's because Jerome Luxdale has a 13% swing to him. I mean, that is an unbelievable figure for the seat of John Howard. 17.2% vote of the vote counted. It's not nothing. Again, even with that 8% swing, if it does exist, Jerome's still on 40-odd or a bit more. He'd be still happy with that.
Yeah, for sure. And I think what we're seeing, and Chris just mentioned it, in those urban seats, urban seats with large Chinese communities, so, Reid, Bennelong, Banks, we are seeing significant swings to Labor. I mean, I think probably some of the concerns raised by the coalition about Chinese spies and things like that through the campaign has not helped the coalition in those seats.
All right. Your wish is my command, Christopher Pyne. Here's Bendigo for you.
Bendigo. Great. Some good news.
Here are the numbers.
I have to show my scar after all.
Yeah, it's good.
Oh, hello.
Take it away.
But we've got to wait for the pre-poll.
You do the numbers.
Too early, way too early.
Very shy of you, Bridget.
Well, it's, again, taken for granted by Labor for 27 years, and Lisa Chesters hasn't done much to help that. Great local candidate, as I said earlier, in Andrew Lethlean. But again, Bendigo, he's known really well. Other aspects of the seat, Kyneton down south, etc., Heathcote. Rochester, which has come into Bendigo, was Safe National Party previously, so I think that's one to watch.
Yes.
But again,
you were there this morning.
Too close to call.
You were there this morning, which said that for you this was always in play, this seat.
Well, the reciprocity of this guy on the ground, the ground game, the volunteers that have just flooded in to the campaign office that we've never seen before in the National Party, sort of saying, I want to help Andrew Lethlean get elected. How do I do that? Handing out, making phone calls, doing all the things you want to happen in an election, with people engaging with people about politics and how we can
loves
make
the
a difference.
local publican, right?
Benefit of owning the pub,
if the coalition
he's also served most of them a beer over
If the coalition's in that position before the pre-polls and the postals, you would have to assume that is definitely in play for us.
Plus, there's 16% coming from One Nation and the Lib there as well. It's
Exactly.
Yeah, I think
that's one to watch.
Can I just maybe just intervene with something else? I'm able to say that the Labor Party is prepared to call Bennelong as a Labor win and Robertson as a Labor win, but we are certainly not calling Hughes.
There you go.
Okay,
Hang on.
if you draw a line through Bennelong and Robertson, again, it's getting hard to see how the Liberal Party can make government.
And Robertson being our bellwether seat, right?
Yeah, we've seen enough of the postal vote samples and enough of the vote to say we're confident to put that in our column.
Okay, Robertson and Bennelong.
Robertson and Bennelong.
That's a great hold from Jerome Luxdale.
Well, I thought he'd win it. I always thought he'd win it, but I thought it'd be a lot closer than that, to be very honest with you. I thought it'd come down to the wire.
A Labor candidate for Robertson's the local doctor too, and has always been very popular.
Yeah, but Robertson, on Bennelong, I thought Jerome would win it, but I thought it would be closer than that. And I also, I was also confident about Gordon. He spends his spare time in the emergency department.
Doesn't
get much better than that.
Look at those numbers.
That was going to be a very big stretch for us to win Robertson.
And that's why you say he's up 6.4%. Lucy Wicks has lost skin. The Greens are going backwards. They've all flowed to him, and that's a fine result for him.
Albanese will be happy for several reasons there, of course.
Yeah. Need a good local member if you retire. Is that what you're saying?
Down the track.
Well, Jody comes from that part of the woods. So,
we're just going to take a quick pause. To our Western Australian viewers, we are going to leave you right now for your news and we'll welcome you back shortly.
Thank you.
OK, to our other viewers around the country, welcome back, and around the world. I know you're watching
around the world.
I've just got a text from Fiji.
I've got text internationally.
Yeah, so they are watching our coverage and we appreciate that. And I hope you're loving the panel. We are. Where are we going next, Kelly?
Well, let's just go back to Robertson then for a moment, and the fact that Chris, you were saying you're calling that for Labor.
Yeah, Labor Party's claiming Robertson. We think that's a clear win for Gordon, and it's a very similar figure actually to the figure for Jerome in Bennelong, which is pretty extraordinary when you think that these are two seats which, I mean, the Liberal Party went into this election notionally holding Bennelong. And that result for Gordon is for Jerome is just extraordinary, as is the result for Gordon. He has worked so hard in a seat which is, as you've said a couple of times, pretty much regarded as a bellwether seat. Not always, but pretty much consistently, whoever wins Robertson forms government.
All right, let's go to the seat of Deakin now in Victoria, Charles.
Yeah, this is important if the night is going as it seems, and that is that you'd need Michael Sukkar in the Parliament. He's losing 4.4%. He's on a very small margin. Given Matt Gregor's gone up, the Greens have lost some skin, so it's one of that will take a while to watch all that flow through, but it's tough for a Lib to win almost anywhere on 35%.
I think the issue with Deakin is the Greens have run an open ticket in those seats today in both Deakin and Menzies, which is sort of counter to their claims they're, trying to fight Peter Dutton and keep Peter Dutton out of government, to then on those seats which are, both, pretty close to not preference to Labor, I think says everything you need to know about them, really. Say one thing, do another.
Okay. And then it's probably not what we've been talking about, what was anticipated to happen in Victoria, that state politics on the nose, and that on a federal level you pay the price for that, doesn't seem to be flowing across.
Well, yeah, sorry, Chris, I didn't mean to jump in on you. I mean, I think we always believed that people would switch on to the federal campaign, and I think we've seen that through the campaign. Having a long-term Victorian government, kind of matters at the state level, but certainly what we're seeing here is a pretty strong result in Victoria.
What I was hearing at the start of the year, Katie, is that Labor was expecting a 6 to 7% swing down in Victoria, but that after the Werribee by-election it seemed to wash out some of that anxiety about the Allen government, and they focused more on the Dutton v Albo contest.
Yeah, I think that's right. Once the campaign proper started and the federal campaign overtakes and becomes the political discussion, we saw people in Victoria consider the choice, and we're seeing some of those early results today coming through. Again, I don't know how many times we say it on this panel, and there will be a time when we can't say it's too close and too soon, but certainly still that. I mean, I just think that issue in, Deakin and Menzies, the preference flow to Labor could be critical in those seats.
Yeah. All right. Tony Burke is standing by for us in the seat of Watson. Can we put those numbers up as we go to Tony? Tony Burke, good evening from the 9 News election headquarters. How are you tracking in your seat of Watson? Of course, you had the Muslim votes matter, and have they had an impact as we have a look at the numbers now on the screen?
Oh, look, there's certainly an impact, and I mean, what I noticed today, the mood on the booths today was stronger for me than what we've had on pre-poll. So I think when some of the pre-poll figures come in a bit later in the night, I think the figures that I've got at the moment will probably move backwards a bit. The other thing that I noticed is it depends which end of the electorate. So we've just had a significant redistribution in the areas where I've been representing them and they've known me for more than 20 years. The result there, it's been borne out, but the feeling on the ground as well was much stronger. And I think as some of the booths come in the new areas that I haven't represented before, some of those results will pull back. So it's still pretty early. I'm very hopeful, and it's been the honour of my life to represent the area where I've always lived, and so I'm very hopeful to be able to continue the work. And the first signs are good, but there's a bit more to come.
Tony, I think your smile says it all. And with 49.4% of the primary vote, don't tell us the party hasn't already started where you are.
It's, as I say, I don't believe that number's going to survive the night. I really don't. I'm always happy anyway. You know me, it annoys people when Parliament's on that I walk in smiling, glad that we're back.
Well, you've got two colleagues here, Chris Bowen and Katie Gallagher. What do you want to say to Tony, and what's your interpretation of what you're seeing?
They can verify that.
That's true. That's true. Well, Berkey, you've run a magnificent campaign, and from where I'm sitting, you're looking pretty good. You're right to be cautious, but as you said, you've lived and worked in that area your entire life, and I think people remember that on days like this, when you've got a campaign and you've been up and down the pre-poll lines. I'm sure people say you've been with us for 20 years and we'll stick with you, and I think that's reflecting in those figures.
Tony, as one former leader of the House to another leader of the House, may the 4th be with you.
Oh, yeah. How are you, Christopher?
I'm very well.
So unkind.
Great stuff, Tony. Really nice to see you, and enjoy the night with your team there. Of course, too early to call, as we keep saying.
Thank you very much.
Let's check in with Menzies in Victoria.
Looking at Menzies.
What have you got, and what are you seeing coming in there, Charles?
Keith Wolahan is losing some skin. That's Gabrielle Ung he's running against. Menzies was always promising to be tight. 14.7% counted. There's a lot of other votes running around when you add up the independent and the Trumpet of Patriots and the One Nation. I mean, that's a fight. You're going to need that James Patterson prediction of the 8% pre-poll to keep Keith Wolahan. He's a great candidate.
He is.
Really, potential future minister and leader. And
no, he's a star. But I think the reality is anybody in the Liberal Party who's within 46, 47, 48 at this stage, before pre-polls and postals, and has got a very good chance of just clinging on. I'm not going to be running around thinking it's a landslide, but I think anybody who's below 45 right now is in bad shape, right? But I think if you can make up 3 or 4% with postals and pre-polls.
There seems to be a lot of clinging on, Christopher Pyne.
Clinging on. Well, a win is a win is a win, Ali.
Except if you're the government, when it's got to win with a increased majority.
Well, that's the test.
It's not a winner test.
Okay. This is a seat that will interest... This is a seat that will interest Bridget Cowper.
Yes.
This is a Nat seat that is under threat from an independent. There's a little bit of drop from the Nat there. Only 3.9%, though. Kaz Heiss is the Teal independent. She's on 37.71 Nation. That's going to be close. I think closer than a lot of people would have predicted. That's pretty low primary votes.
Well, Pat's worked really, really hard. And again, you've got Port Macquarie to the south, Kempsey to the west, and Coffs up in the north. I think if we want to see those pre-polls come in for Cowper, particularly, it is going to be tight. We knew it was going to be tight. No secret there, but he's done the work. And when we get about 25, 30% of that vote counted, when those pre-polls get in, I'd want to come back to this
I think that would surprise a lot of people. If there was the swing on against the Liberal Party, as it seems to be in these early numbers at least, Cowper would have been one of those ones that lost
well, look,
as well.
When you look at the distribution of preferences in the too early to call column, it does have Pat slightly ahead. He's a fantastic local member, so we'll be hoping he can bring it home tonight.
All right, let's take a look at Mackellar in New South Wales. A lot of talk about what would be happening with the Teal seats. We just saw Kooyong before and Monique Ryan looking okay. Let's see what's happening with Sophie Scompes.
She's looking really okay.
Yeah.
20% of the vote, that is 1 in 5 votes are being counted, and Sophie Scompes, who turned this Teal and was under real threat at the start of the campaign at least to losing her seat, has gained votes.
James Brown, former son-in-law of Prime Minister Turnbull.
Correct, captain in the army.
Yeah.
And Sophie Scompes, she didn't have a great week last week with the footballer and the climate change and so on. But anyway, 7% towards her, 20% of the vote counted. Talking about the seat of Perth, which of course was Malcolm Turnbull's. Let's have a look at Allegra Spender and how she's going there. And I remember the other day I saw a 250-metre long line of Allegra Spender supporters in the rain with teal umbrellas. It was a huge campaign they put on in the seat of Wentworth. Let's have a look at those numbers now.
An unbelievable amount of campaigners involved there. This becomes a bigger problem for the Liberal Party if some of these seats don't start coming back, and on those numbers they won't start coming back because Allegra Spender has, in a similar manner, almost exactly, to Sophie Scompes, has added 7% to her vote. Ro Knox has lost votes there. And if those seats don't start coming back, it gets too hard to form a government. And these are Liberal seats. This is Malcolm Turnbull's seat. These are seats that you need. And if she's up at 61%, it's not just about this election, it's about the next two, if you can't get those inner city seats back.
Well, I think we start calling them teal seats.
Well, you do, yeah.
Goldstein in Victoria, Zoe Daniels, another one. Let's have a look.
Peter Dutton started his morning there this morning. That's because he believes it's important and Tim Wilson believes it's winnable. And this is one of the cases where things are going differently. Tim Wilson is gaining votes. Zoe Daniel is losing votes. That was a tight margin last time. 39.3 still not a huge base to be launching from. I think most Libs want to be in the sort of low to mid 40s, but that is at least a bucking of that trend, and there's some hope there for Tim Wilson.
All right. Thank you, Charles. Pause, take a breath. Let's go to Liz Daniels in our virtual tally room. Liz?
Well, Peter, step back inside the virtual tally room with me because some of the things that the panel is talking about at a seat-by-seat level is playing out in our bigger, broader numbers. I want to take you to the national primary vote now because, as you can see, Labor's vote is effectively holding up, going up 1 point. The Coalition is having a bad night on these early numbers, 5.5% down. But have a look at where the vote is going. The Independents are up nearly 3% and the Greens are also gaining. The story is different in Queensland. If you were thinking anywhere Peter Dutton was going to have a good night, you would have thought it might have been in his home state. It is an even worse result for the Coalition in Peter Dutton's home state. 8.7% down for the Coalition in Queensland. Labor has gained. The Greens are up. That One Nation is up as well. In New South Wales, it's a similar story. We're seeing Labor gaining, the Coalition going backwards, but look at the Green vote and the Independent vote. And I want to get your thoughts on this later, Charles, as well, because I'm wondering if this Green vote is potentially a housing crisis vote, but think Richmond on the north coast of New South Wales. There's a Green challenger there, and of course we know that Independent challenger in Bradfield, and the teal capital really was Sydney at the last election. In Victoria, we were expecting Labor could have a bad night. There's a state government there that there's a fair bit of resentment towards, but it looks like voters tonight have differentiated. The Labor vote is holding up, the Coalition vote's going backwards, and again, a hike for the Independent there. So think those seats of Kooyong, Goldstein that Peter Dutton really needed to win back when we talked about our road to victory, that he needed to win those back. But also think Wannon, that challenger Alex Dyson that we were seeing. Of course, guys, it is your election at home as well, and we do want you to have your say. So hit us up on the socials with the hashtag Australia Decides, as these people have already done. And if we zoom in, I want to show you, Timmy has written in. What is Timmy doing tonight? Taking part in an Aussie tradition. He has a democracy sausage and a democracy doggo. I hope he shared. We also heard from Tim, who is saying that, don't know who's responsible, but left-handed polling booths are the greatest. Thank you and well played. So good news for Tim. He had a great time voting. Looks like Timmy and Timmy's doggo had a good time voting too. But yeah, what are you thinking with that big vote in, big rise in the Greens vote in New South Wales?
Yeah, it's young people. It's the young people vote. This has been coming out in some of the polling, is that young people are looking for a place to park their vote, and sometimes it's Teals and sometimes it's Greens.
And is it because of the housing crisis? Because they took centre stage on the debate on housing?
Yeah, I'll let everyone that was involved in that debate step in. I think they'll both have things to say about the Greens and the way they treated this. But in particular, Max Chandler-Mather, who it seems is behind on his count, took this up. It became the party of renters. And if there are lots of renters, that's going to win. And I think he'd be furious at some of his colleagues for the way they've taken the party in the last 2 years, particularly the Greens when they got caught up in a horrible situation in the Middle East and made something they couldn't control their number one issue instead of being about something they could control, which is rent and housing. And that's how you win a seat. And he might have won them seats places and lost his own seat in doing it.
I think also, Liz, there's this traditional and, well, historical drift that we're seeing. We're in the middle of a really fascinating inflection point with modern politics where the domination between the blue and the red is no more. And, you know, it's 68% voted for Labor or the Coalition last time. It's looking like it's going to be lower.
I think the Voice referendum was really kind of instrumental in cracking that open and unleashing the tribalism. Like, the tribalism wasn't there. You had Labor voters clearly voting against their own federal government and then realising, well, the sky didn't fall in. Maybe there's some sort of freedom then in where they've chosen to park their votes in this election.
And just having a look to what Liz was running through there, the Coalition has taken a big hit to their vote in Queensland. Let's go back to Dickson, which of course is Peter Dutton's seat, because that is early, sure, but not looking terrific.
It's not as early as it was before, and the trend is getting slightly better for Peter Dutton. Down 8.8%, the Independent, the Green, there's lots of votes elsewhere. Ali France had this on a tight margin last time she ran. Given she is up, if you look at two-party preferred, it's 56-43. Christopher, you were saying if you're around 45, 46, you'll get it back. How about 43?
Well, 43 is lower than 45.
It is.
Well done. Why you have me on the panel?
We've been trying to work it out. We just...
I'm even a major in mathematics.
He is an actuary by trade.
Dixon is the most marginal seat in Queensland, and I think we just saw, you know, if you can pick up a bit of a swing, what's happening in a state, there's a swing to Labor over 3%. I mean, if you're looking at that, just at that high level, that puts Dixon in play. Ali France, amazing candidate, and this is her third time.
Third time.
And it makes a difference. People know, so she's got name recognition. It's not like a candidate nobody knows. She lives and works in that electorate. People know her story, story of incredible resilience. And, yeah, I think, you know, her hard work again is being reflected in these numbers. I think we need, again, a bit longer before we...
Worth noting, Prime Minister started his campaign there. That was his first stop. He was there again 2 days ago.
Yeah, he almost
went
finished.
back 4 times.
Yeah.
It's always been on it. I mean, I think some people asserted that we weren't real about Dickson. We never were complacent about winning it. It's always been on our serious list of real potential wins.
Yeah, between the two leaders, it was the most visited seat.
Yeah.
Six apiece, or 6 all up. Yeah, but it is interesting. Like, well, by the time we get to the end of the night, will Peter Dutton be in a situation where he just won't know whether he's been re-elected or not, or whether he's lost? It might be just one just for some time.
One that takes a few
Too early to tell.
I think there'll be a jump when the pre-polls come in a lot
100%.
of these seats. Now, whether the jump is big enough is questionable. And look at the knob, I think we can...
And just confirming, did you say between 8:30 and 9 Eastern time that should start coming through? So it's
around the
8:20.
30% count mark.
OK. We're going to move through some seats for you now. Keep moving the computer for you. Let's go to Wills in Victoria, Charles.
Yeah, Will's a Labor seat. Peter Khalil is there. He is under threat from the Greens. They are both losing territory. That's going to be a scattered old result, isn't it? On that number, it's probably going to be OK for Peter Khalil because he's not losing too much territory to the Greens. But again, competitive seat will line the Libs. The computer says the Greens are in front. Yeah,
I'm not sure how to get
let's wait for that one.
Yeah, that's a. Let's check out Sturt.
Christopher, do you want the honour on
yeah,
this one?
you call this
Commentary
one.
from the actuary.
Well, the figures aren't up yet. Look, my oil out of Sturt is that we will not win it tonight. But I think it's too early to make that prediction. But I am being told by my successor that it will be very, very difficult
Can
for
I
us to
say,
win.
our computer has given that the tick at the bottom of the screen there, which means we are projecting that is a Labor seat.
I think the thing about Sturt there, the really interesting thing about there, as Christopher would know much better than me, is that Labor is ahead on primaries. And that is unprecedented, I think, in the last 60 years. You know, we've had the odd chance where we thought we might get there on two-party preferred, but we have never been ahead on primaries. We are ahead, not by a huge amount, but by a clear amount on primaries in Sturt. I think that means
it's a
Sturt
big
is
jump.
looking very, very difficult.
I mean, usually Labor's votes around sort of 25, 28%, and the Greens are about sort of 14, 15%, and for them, for the Labor Party primary to be about 30-something%, 38% makes it very difficult. But, you know, I'm not giving up until the pre-polls and the postals are in.
That's right.
But I think it's almost out. Yes, I held it for 26 years.
Yeah.
So it's that's a big
You
blow.
were shredded.
Now, Labor is interested in Bonner.
James Stevens is a fantastic member
Let's,
and a great advocate.
we've got a couple of other seats that I think we're keen to. We're reaching a point where we can probably call them. Brisbane in Queensland, obviously.
Named after a New South Welshman, though. That makes it any easier. That's a Christmas Trevor Evans has lost 5%. Stephen Bates is coming third, and that is a disaster for Stephen Bates because the majority of that would flow to Madonna Jarrett, and on her second attempt, she would become the member for Brisbane. That would be a Labor Party gain. 1 in 4 votes have been counted there. Yeah. The trend is not the friend of Trevor Evans.
OK, Andrew Probyn, we're going to take you through the next few seats. We're going to go to Griffith now. Max Chandler-Mather's seat. Let's put those numbers up.
Well, this is another fascinating contest, another three-way. Now, this one is looking pretty good for Labor, you got to say, on those numbers. Again, as Charles was saying earlier, this is a contest where it's really going to be decided on who comes last out of those three. So if we go to a 2PP there, and it's almost 24% counted. See here, that's a very good result as it stands for Renee Coffey. And Max Chandler-Mather, well, could he be a one-termer?
So our computer's calling the seat
Of Griffith in Queensland.
Yeah. Okay.
Labor? Yeah.
Yep.
Katie, Chris, your thoughts on that and what we're seeing there?
Yeah, well, really pleased to see those results in Queensland. I think we would add Bonner to that to keep an eye on as well.
And let's put up Braddon now from Tasmania.
Well, that is a big turnaround for Anne Urquhart.
Good on Anne, yeah.
Now, remember, Anne's taken Anne Urquhart has taken a big gamble by switching from the Senate to the House.
She was the only one that could have done it in that seat.
Yep, and she's turned her brand recognition into a big swing for the ALP there. So let's, and that's 40% counted. So this will be very, very indicative once we go to the 2PP.
And Katie, when you say that she's the only one who could have done
Look
that.
at that, 57-43. So that's an ALP gain.
Why?
Well, her local connections in that part of Tasmania. You know, I think it was an 8.5% swing that she had to get across from the last election, where we hadn't done as well as we'd done in other places. She was the only person that could have done it. She took a risk, she left the Senate, and she's campaigned. Well, she's campaigned for 3 years because she's been the duty senator. But more than that, I mean, she's born, bred, raised a family. Yeah. You go down to Braddon, any part of Braddon, and I've spent a bit of time with her down there. She knows you, worked with you. Her mother looked after you when they were young. Her kids went to school with you. Her husband works with you. Like, it is nuts how high profile she is.
And that local connection you have makes a really big difference. And then when you go back to Peter Dutton's seat of Dixon, where you say like Ali France, who's been a really strong, and obviously we're not calling that seat yet. You know, maybe that's something that hurts then Peter Dutton, even though he's been there for a long time. He's travelled 64,000 kilometres during this campaign and hasn't been present in his own seat. Does that make a difference?
And this is her third go as well, isn't it?
Yeah. Look, I think in the broad, what we can say for sure, coalition majority obviously gone, coalition minority government gone. It's now between Labor minority, Labor majority. Labor's looking like it could even score a majority on these figures.
Let's have a look at Bass now, Andrew.
So this is also a fascinating contest because, of course, Bridget Archer, she's been hotly contesting that. She was seeking to be re-elected for the third time, but she's in trouble there. Jess Teasdale, Labor star in Bass, 10.8% swing. You'd got to say that ALP's very well placed to pick this one up. Let's look at the 2PP. There you go. That's big.
Okay, but as we're saying, still too early to call. Charles?
Yeah, if we are ready to go, which I believe we are, with no further objections. At this time, Nine projects the election is won by Labor. There is no path for the Liberal Party or the Coalition to win. Albo gets a second go and Labor wins the election.
There you go. Charles.
Thoughts?
At this hour?
We'll go to Katie and Chris first.
Well, yeah, no, you go, Chris.
Well, the leader claims victory, not us, mere cabinet members.
Come on,
but
Christopher.
I do agree. I don't see a pathway for the coalition. I don't see a possible pathway at all.
Katie?
Yeah, agree. I think from the coalition side, there's no pathway through this, and I say that at 8. It is only 8:24, and we're still, as we say, wanting to watch some of those other results come in, but it looks impossible.
Bridget?
Yep.
I think it would be miraculous from here, but again, and I can't say it enough, I've stood on the booths in Labor seats in Victoria, around the country. Let's get the pre-polls in, see what impact that has and where.
And I would add...
This is headquarters at the moment, where that news has just filtered through. And they're liking what they're hearing.
They're watching Nine as well.
They are.
There's no possibility that the coalition can win. The question now is, does Labor form a majority government or a minority government? And I think that is still slightly in play because there are a few unusual seat results.
Yeah, absolutely. 100%.
That are not clear, like Franklin. Question now, however, is will this be the worst result for the coalition since our party's inception in the last 80 years?
Now in play.
Can you believe
if we don't have a significant change in pre-polls and postals in the next hour and the next few days, we could actually end up with less than a third of the seats in the House of Representatives, which would be our worst result since 1943.
Now, perhaps we should look at Bonner in that regard.
Yeah.
I think there's movement afoot there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's have a look at that, I think, after the break, because if I'm perfectly honest, I feel like we all need a moment.
Yes, everyone went very quiet.
There's your movement. Yeah.
But look at that, what's happening in Bonner. That's a big 11% swing to Cara Cook. Ross Vasta, incumbent, he's in considerable trouble there.
The Prime Minister handed out on pre-polls there a couple of days
That's
ago.
right, we were there. In fact, he saw Ross Vasta at the pre-poll centre.
Yeah. You guys taking it?
Sorry, which one are we...
Bonner.
Bonner, yes. We are calling Bonner as a Labor gain, and I think Chris has got some stuff on Dixon.
Yeah, Dixon, just interestingly, we're starting to get pre-poll in with more than 7,000 votes counted at the Marumba Downs pre-poll. Our primary vote is up 4% and Peter Dutton's is down 8%. So we're not yet claiming Dixon, but we are saying it's a Labor lean.
Katie, could you text the Prime Minister and just get a feel, please?
Or Christopher Pyne text Peter Dutton and see if he's okay.
Well, I might do that in the break. I think he's probably got other people to talk to in where he is right now with his family.
But I mean, did you see tonight playing out as we have so far?
No.
Yeah.
Well, it's brutal, isn't it?
Well, look, we still have the pre-polls and postals to count, but on what we're seeing at the moment, I didn't think that the election could be this bad. No, but you know, it may well improve. But if it's going to have to improve a hell of a lot.
Okay.
Well, I'm holding on to our campaign spokesman Paddo's advice.
8%, come on.
Let's get the pre-polls in and then see where we land.
He also said last night that you ran a very clever and positive campaign.
Well, in Bendigo, I know that's the case.
That's the role of the campaign spokesperson. But all I'm saying is, he's, I think 8% was ambitious.
I've been the campaign spokesman twice, maybe 3 times, and sometimes you do feel like comical Ali in the Iraqi.
How did you go in those two campaigns?
Wow.
When you're sort of saying things that you hope are going to be true. Hope they're going to be true.
How did you go in those two campaigns?
Well, we reduced the Gillard government to a minority in 2010 and we won in 2013, so pretty good.
You take those, yeah.
OK, the seat of Forde in Queensland is telling us a story, and here are the numbers for you.
You can tell because I'm frantically flipping through my
Okay,
page.
we can
This
talk
isn't
through
one
this
that I
one
did.
for you.
Yeah, look, the Labor is up 6.5. Bert Van Manen, who's been in the Parliament a long time, is down 6.8. And this has the feelings. I keep saying it's early, but this has all those the 2007 feeling. And Queensland has swung away from the LNP, and it's seats like Longman's going to come into play. Forde, Leichhardt, like it is really seats that Labor haven't looked like winning for a while. That's still close.
Was that on anyone's list? That one?
No.
And Charles, where does federal politics and state politics come into it? We talked about the Victorian situation.
question.
We can also talk about the Queensland situation.
David Crisafulli seems quite popular from everything I've seen. He seems to be quite well liked.
Absolutely.
The polling's good. The Prime Minister's office likes working with him.
Did a great job in the floods.
Yeah,
was
they
up
think
front,
they
very
think he's great.
clear.
There's no baseball bats mentality there. Perhaps they got to take it out on Stephen Miles and his government. We also, as was pointed out by James Patterson, while no one declared it was going to be a Miles victory, there was that late shift that got Crisafulli into a majority. So.
OK, we are now going to welcome back our viewers. Welcome to our viewers in Western Australia. Hope you enjoyed your local news as we come back to you on Nine's election coverage, Australia Decides 2025. You are just joining us. Charles, I might just get you to give our WA viewers an overview of what we've been talking about for the last little while and where things stand as we come to them.
In the last 10 minutes or so, Nine is projecting a Labor victory in this election. We see no path for the coalition forming government, majority or minority. The votes are still being tallied. It's still unclear if it will be a majority or a minority for Labor. As it stands, there is serious doubt about Peter Dutton in his seat of Dixon, as well as several members of the Liberal Party front bench. And we'll see that play out when we start seeing some numbers coming in from WA as well, which will be interesting.
Let's have a look at a couple of other Queensland seats. If you're a coalition supporter, you might want to look away.
Look away.
Perfectly honest. Let's look at Longman.
Yeah, Longman has bounced around. This was, I guess, most famously won by Wyatt Roy when he was a 19-year-old and caused a big surprise in 2010, the election when Christopher was the spokesperson. This is looking better for Labor than they would have expected. Terry Young's a pretty popular fella up there. 1 in 4 votes counted. Yeah. With the Green vote, though, tacked on top of Labor, it is close. A 3.3% swing. That's one that you'd be hoping that the early votes come back.
Well, I think we're getting to 25, 26% there too, so... Yeah.
Another seat we're going to have a look at in Queensland is Petrie, and let's see what the numbers tell us here.
Yeah, Petrie earlier on looked pretty bad for Luke Howarth. Things haven't got a whole lot better. In fact, they've gotten worse as the count's gone on. Emma Comer, I believe. Emma Comer? 37.5. Luke Howarth getting 1 in 3 votes. A big Trump vote, a big One Nation vote, a big Family First vote. So they'll all tend to trend to Luke Howarth. That's going to be tight once it gets to the top. But you'd rather be Labor with the Green at 14% as well there.
Yep,
no doubt about that.
Bridget, do you think the Trump factor played into this swing towards Labor? That people looked at their superannuation balance after Liberation Day and went, oh dear, I don't like this. This is negative. This is not what I want. It's best I stick with the incumbent. And Peter Dutton was tagged with that Trump tag early in the piece.
Yeah, I think the Trump factor has absolutely had a role in the election. It was weaponised by one side when I think, obviously, we made it very clear that, you know, the national interest, putting Australians first, was how we were going to approach foreign affairs, including our relationship with the US and given their change of president. I think the tariff, the uncertainty globally, not just economically but strategically, particularly in our region, have all played on people's minds. And I think it has played a role, but I think we had a really... Our defence policy was obviously better, and I think there was a whole lot of sophisticated policy solutions to quite complex issues. So let's see when the pre-polls come in, but no doubt the election of President Trump and how the curveballs he threw into the global trading market had an impact here at home, because we are a trading nation.
What about work from home? Yes, it was focused on Canberra and the public servants, but did that ripple through the economy and people went, oh, is that me who's working from home and I live in Sydney or I live in Adelaide or Western Australia, that people went, oh, I don't like that. I like working from home. It's saving me money. As a mum, it's working for me, and we're in a cost of living crisis.
Well, I think it was, again, one of those things that was weaponised quite successfully by the Labor Party early.
I don't think you were all over the shop on work from home.
Yeah. So
you can argue that Donald Trump is Anthony Albanese's secret sauce in this victory, right? You can argue that. However, you were all over the shop on work from home, all over the shop on public servants.
Probes, I'm very, we changed that policy.
During the campaign.
Yes.
Was it thought out? Was it...
Can I just say...
Can I just say, let's wait for the pre-poll before we get all the, the whys, wherewithals out. I'm very happy to discuss all of that once we actually get the pre-polls.
We do need to weaponise the work from home. When that policy was announced, and there's no doubt you were dabbling around whether what had worked in America was going to work here, there was no doubt that was going on. And you threw it out there, and the problem was everyone who was working from home in outer suburban areas in cities thought you meant them. Like, it wasn't weaponised by us. You did all the damage yourself.
Here in New South Wales, the Premier Minns has adopted the same policy without the same consequence, because it was recognised that, we needed to get... He wants public servants in New South Wales to get back to work, and we cauterised that to Canberra, not forward-facing, publicly
But then
dealing
Senator
roles.
Hume said it's good policy, just not the right time to do it.
So
That was the other problem.
You know what? It was a bad call, and it looks like it might be coming back to bite you. Let's look at Deakin in Victoria.
Yeah, Deakin is Michael Sukkar, and given the way things are going, Michael might be needed in Liberal Party leadership. He is losing ground, 4.8% down. Matt Gregg has now taken the lead in that count. He was running second before from the ALP. The Green is at 13%, and when you combine the Green and the Labor vote, I know it's not always a clean flow.
This is the open ticket one,
Yeah, but who is the Green that's voting? One Green, two Michael Sukkar. Do those people exist? Do you reckon?
We'll see.
Okay,
they will,
okay.
Chris, are you seeing anything come in from any more, like on the pre-polling?
Not for Dixon or the other seats, but we're certainly moving more seats into the Labor lean category. We're not calling that many yet in a final sense, but we are certainly, if you like, more aggressive than we were half an hour ago in the list of seats that we have that we think we are a decent chance.
Prime Minister spent a fair bit of time in Deakin. Can we look at Dixon? Because I would like to sort of just... I know we've been speaking about this for a while. This count continues. There is now some of the pre-poll vote coming in, and Peter Dutton has edged his way up to 30%, but he's been at 29 for a long time. 31.3% of the vote counted now. That's the two-party projection. Our computer is giving that seat to Ailey France. That is a probable gain for Labor at the moment. Probable.
A probable gain.
Probable. I'm going to repeat probable a third time. But that is deeply worrying for Peter Dutton and for the LNP.
Well, it's very deeply worrying, obviously, 42.5% 2PP, and there's, what did you say, 31% of the votes counted. So, if we weren't waiting for pre-polls and postals, then, we would definitely have said that seat's been lost. Now, it'd be it'd be surprising if the pre-polls and the postals made such a big difference. Can I just comment on the work from home discussion we had before? Because, politics is about building alliances with people from all sorts of different persuasions and backgrounds. And it's not about driving people away from you. And where the Liberal Party, I think, in this election has, in some respects, lost its way is the work from home announcement was very unpopular, pushed people away. The 41,000 public servants being sacked in Canberra doesn't just resonate in Canberra. It resonates all across the country. Do you really think that federal public servants everywhere across the country think, oh, thank God they're sacking all those public servants in Canberra, not here in Sturt or in Bennelong or elsewhere? They are just as tribal in supporting each other as any other football team might be. So I think if there's one lesson the Liberal Party has to learn out of tonight's result, which is hardly a good one, is that we have to remember that we are about moving to the
set to the centre, you tack to the centre to win elections, and you add votes together, one group after another, until you get to a majority. And that's why the Liberal Party's won many elections in the last 80 years. We've lost that sense of that's what we're supposed to be doing, and we're seeing the results of that.
Can I add one to that? I agree with everything Christopher just said, and can I add nuclear? I mean, this was a policy that was never going to survive contact with reality. It was a policy which was radical and risky, and it might have seemed like a good idea at the time. The Australian people have cast a very strong judgment on this. I mean, we had polling a while ago showing 47% of voters in Dixon were less likely to vote for Peter Dutton because of the nuclear policy. Peter Dutton said there was a referendum on energy, which we were happy with, and the way the results are flowing, the result of that referendum on energy, nuclear versus renewables, is crystal clear.
Well, we will talk more about energy, I think, when we come back. But, I mean, we are predicting now it is a Labor victory and that Peter Dutton is very likely, or it's probable, that he's going to lose his seat tonight. Stay with us. You're watching Nine's special coverage of election 2025. Australia Decides.
That is Labor HQ in Sydney, where Anthony Albanese will appear later this evening with the news that Nine is predicting a Labor victory early in the evening. Let's go to the Today Show's Sarah Arbo at Labor HQ. Sarah, can you hear us over the cheers? Has it died down? Oh, yes, it has.
I can, Pete. I've put 2 earpieces in so that I can hear you, because you should have heard it a moment ago. Actually, throughout the evening, it's been called, obviously, on Channel 9, and everyone here heard it, and they are all celebrating. There's such a good vibe. I'm going to take you first to Deborah O'Neill. Excuse me, Senator, how are you? Congratulations, first of all.
Oh, thank you. It's a remarkable moment to be here. This is actually, I've been handing out for 30 years. It's the first time I've come to Sydney. It's the first time I felt so strong in the seat of Robertson on the coast, where the counting's finished, people have gone home, and that just hasn't happened before. Yeah.
Are you feeling relieved at all? Did you expect this to happen?
No, definitely relieved. I don't think anybody in the Labor team took anything for granted. We gave it everything that we could. You know, I've never spent so long in a pair of Wellington boots and plastic pants in my entire life, just handing out in the rain. It's the wettest campaign I've ever been a part of. And I think that that's just a metaphor for the determination of every Labor person who's been out there really working hard to convince the nation that we need to focus on the future, that we have a great future ahead, and that we can be a really united, powerful, connected nation that continues to grow and do remarkable things.
Senator, I mean, have you seen the swings?
I've been getting some from the booths that I know the very best right on the Central Coast, and when I got like 9 to 11% in a couple of booths, I thought, oh, that's so good. And then 14% in others, you know. This has been an area that has been very deep Liberal for a really long period of time, but younger people, you know, the first time that it hasn't been a Boomers election, younger people are saying, you know, that mantra, that sort of negativity that's so associated now with Peter Dutton, they rejected that wholeheartedly. This is an optimistic moment for the nation. We're looking to the future, and we are going to unite around the Labor Party and our leader, Anthony Albanese, who's played a blinder.
You've absolutely, you have done so well this election. All the polls were expecting a Labor result.
Yes.
Perhaps not this emphatically. You've been out in the Central Coast campaigning, your old seat, you're a senator now, your old seat of Robertson. Working from home was a big factor there, wasn't it?
I really could not believe it when the Liberal Party came out with their program of, you know, cutting down working from home. Do they have no understanding of what it's like to be a modern family? I mean, my children are grown now. Working from home is just a part of life that they expect to be able to manage and improve the productivity of what they do. So there's a productivity agenda in the midst of working from home for our families as well as for our economy, and they just didn't understand that. And I think that we're seeing the result here tonight.
There was a lot of confidence from some within the Labor camp, and there was some, I guess, hedging their bets ahead of tonight's result. You now have a result. You now have a lot of Australians who are backing your agenda. Where does that lead now?
Well, I think it needs to continued cautious optimism, continued hard work in the national interest, where we govern for everyone. And as the Prime Minister says, that we leave no one behind, but we hold no one back. That is where we are going to find our strength.
I'm going to grab. Can I grab you? Look at. I'm just going to grab this for 1 second. Look at these. We've seen these throughout the night. Have you had one of these yet? An elbow brew?
I just had a sip, and it's a fantastic drop.
Tastes like victory?
100%, yeah. So it's a wonderful evening for us, having worked so hard. And I just genuinely think that the Australian people don't like to be taken for granted. We certainly didn't do that. And this celebration here tonight, my first night in Sydney for a Labor celebration in all the years I've been in the party, I can't believe I jagged tonight of all of the nights to be here. I'm delighted to be here.
Well, double congratulations to you then, Senator. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Much.
So let's move around. We're going to chat to some... So I just stole your beer. I'm so sorry, but you must be feeling very pumped today. You don't want to go on camera? Okay, no, right. We've got some shy people here, but there are a lot of people celebrating. We might try and make our way in here now to speak to some volunteers. Just follow me. This is something that we were expecting, a Labor win, but nothing of this significance. So let's just make our way through here. We've got all kinds of people. I don't know if they want to have a chat. Anyone here want to have a chat? Congratulations. How are you feeling about the result?
Very pleased.
Oh, is that all? Come on.
I'm sure you can find some fabulously exciting things.
Very good. Australia said no to culture wars and no to hatred and good economic management.
You look like you want to have a chat, sir. How are you feeling? Congratulations.
I'm feeling fantastic. This is my mum right here. I'm feeling fantastic.
So this is a mother and son voting in the same way?
It is.
Yeah.
There's a lot of jubilation here, guys. I might check in with a few others and then we'll come back to you.
Yeah, I tell you what, that moment when the election was called for Labor and the dancing, Sarah, I don't know if I saw you in the middle of it, but you need to go and find that group again. I want to go now to Dan Tehan in the seat of Wannon, because he might be the only bright light or the good news for the coalition coming out, the Liberals coming out of it tonight. Dan, it looks like you will hold your seat.
Look, that's what the AEC seems to be predicting, the age, the Australian. So obviously, you know, very pleased about that result. This electorate is the size of Belgium. I've spent the last 3 years really working as hard as I possibly can. We've had bushfires, we've had hailstorms which wrecked the town of Casterton, so there's been a lot of hard work just helping communities, and it does seem like that we've got a very positive result here, and I can't thank the over 1,700 supporters, volunteers and Liberal Party members who have worked tirelessly to support me over the last 3 years.
OK, Dan, let's now pull back a bit and the overview of the situation for your party tonight. It looks like, or we have called 9 as projected, that Labor will win this election, and your leader, Peter Dutton's seat is looking tenuous at best. How are you feeling about the overall picture for you guys?
Well, obviously, it's a disappointing result, and I think we were all hoping for a lot better. So really what we need to do now is make sure that we take the time to analyse what's happened, to think about it and make sure we do a proper analysis of what's occurred.
Dan Tehan, Andrew Probyn here. You've never hidden your personal ambitions with Peter Dutton in significant trouble tonight. Would you care to declare whether you would be a contender for the leadership after this election?
Andrew, I've today started in Ararat. I've driven to Hamilton where I voted. I then drove down to Warrnambool. I've now just driven back to Hamilton. I've just been on the phone the whole time, thanking volunteers, thanking everyone who helped and supported me. I've just got here. Literally when I pulled up in the car park, we started getting the news. As a matter of fact, I was speaking to my daughter who's overseas at the moment studying, and she rang me to say that she'd seen on the Age website that I'd retained the seat, or that was saying that I should retain the seat. So I haven't had any time to think about anything else other than to get a bit of a sense of being what's happening nationally, and also just to make sure, double-checking what's been occurring here.
So
It's
we'll
been
take
a
that.
long
We'll
day.
take that as a yes.
It's been a long
Dan
2
Tehan.
months.
Dan, it's Charles Croucher.
Andrew, as you know, and you and I have played cricket together, that obviously I always love to play with a straight bat, but seriously, none of us expected this. And can I say to the Leader of the Opposition, Peter Dutton, I think the way that he has brought the party together in these last 3 years, the way that he's unified the party and the way that he's led us, and everyone was 100% behind him the whole time. For the first term, when we went into opposition after 9 years, the way that he brought everyone together and that unity of purpose, I think is an absolute credit to him.
Dan, it's Charles Croucher. I'll put a juicy one outside your off stump then. What did you do this time that everyone else didn't, that let you hold your seat?
Look, I can't really speak for others, but what I've done here is just work my backside off, just 100% work my backside off. I've never worked harder in my life over the last 3 years. I've had wonderful, wonderful support from the community wherever I've been. It's been a really challenging 3 years. At the moment, a lot of my electorate is facing drought and they're getting no help and no assistance from the Victorian State Labor Government and Jacinta Allen. We've had those bushfires in the Grampians that literally burn about 80% of the Grampians, and then the Victorian State Labor Government thinks about putting a fire services levy on the volunteers who are out there protecting the community through the goodness of their hearts. We've had hailstorms in Casterton which wrecked roofs like there was no tomorrow, and having to go there and help them and especially battle through and make sure that the insurance claims were going to be paid, roofs were going to be fixed before winter comes this year. That's the sort of thing that I've been out on the ground doing and dealing with, and it's been tough, it's been hard work, but you know, making sure you're there for your community is something that I've always prided myself on, and that's what I've tried to do over the last 3 years.
Dan, it's Bridge. Congratulations on holding that seat. I know we've done a lot of work on roads together. They're appalling thanks to Labor state government and a lack of investment federally. You've really fought that tooth and nail for your community on the ground, and I know Dyson tried to get you there, but our commitments, I think, as a coalition nationally really assisted on the roads front.
Look, Bridget, there's no doubt that the state of the roads in Victoria, right across Victoria, are deteriorating constantly. And what we said we would do, because the Victorian State Labor Government is broke, because they've put so much money and so much emphasis into that suburban rail loop, we said that we would put $4 in for every $1 that the state Labor Government put in. Now, my hope is that what we will see is the Albanese Labor Government now saying to the Victorian State Labor Government, we need to work together to make sure that we address these roads right across the state of Victoria, and they should be the ones now saying we want to put $4 in for every $1 you've got, because everyone knows the Victorian State Labor Government, sadly, is running out of money.
OK, Dan Tehan, we thank you for your time tonight. We congratulate you on holding your seat in what is a tough night for the Coalition. Dan Tehan, thank you so much. Let's go to the Northern Territory now and have a look at the seat of Solomon. Charles, what story is it telling us?
Luke Gosling managed to shake the curse of Solomon by winning this seat for a third time, which no one had done. He's in trouble tonight, though. He has lost 6.5% of the vote. Lisa Bayliss, really good candidate for the CLP. She has picked up 10%, and that's back in the areas that sort of Natasha Griggs or Dave Tollner were in when they held the seat as CLP members.
Absolutely. She's a fabulous candidate on the ground, comes from really good stock, an ex-federal police officer. 31% counted. We're getting those pre-polls in. She was able to announce trials into Darwin Airport to get the cost of living down on airfares. The housing piece was really hitting in Darwin as well. So the policies we put forward really nailed it as well for Lisa, and she's just has worked non-stop since her pre-selection.
Has the crime issue been as big in Solomon as it has in Lingiari?
Right across the NT, it's been significant. Obviously, we had that atrocious incident in Lingiari, but it doesn't matter whether you're in Darwin, Palmerston, Alice, Catherine, it's an issue, and it's something the Territory government under the CLP has been tackling with, and they've been hitting it out of the park. So the brand's strong for the CLP.
Just looking at Lingiari there.
Except
Marion
outside of
Scrimgeour.
Darwin and Palmerston, where it's gone backwards. And Marion Scrimgeour, it gets a sophomore surge into his second term. She's well known that area. I was told from some people on the ground there that the regional votes, that is the communities largely, were much higher this time around. The polling booths that get out there to remote areas managed to get hold of more voters, and I think they
that's
might
the
have
COVID story, I think, in 2022.
And the referendum, I think, when we saw a very high enrolment onto the electoral rolls from First Nations Australians. So again, Marion, and I think we're very good in taking part in all of those remote polling, like making sure, I mean, Malandieri and Marion have been out there and they fly in on small planes and they set up. They're there when the Electoral Commission's setting up. You know, it's quite a different experience to pre-poll, remote voting. So you have to be there and have those connections.
I think Solomon depends a lot on how the preferences of that independent break, which he's getting 12% of the vote. And One Nation are also getting a high vote too. So I think that's going to be tight. It gives it to Luke Gosling at the moment on your predictor, but I just think that's going to be a nail-biter over the next week.
Might be
What have you got, Chris Bond?
I'm just happy to tell you that the Labor Party's claiming victory in the seats of Bass, Bonner, Griffith and Sturt as of the current situation.
You're getting real close to it.
Bass, Bonner, Griffith and Sturt.
Yeah.
A whole bunch of others that we're confident in but not yet claiming, but Bass, Bonner, Griffith and Sturt, we believe.
So where, based on that, are you looking at majority?
Yes. Yeah. I think we are looking now at that as a real distinct possibility, if not the likely outcome, but we're not there yet. There's still a number of seats moving around. So, for example, you know, Bendigo and Wills and Bean we've talked about. So, you know, there's seats where we're also not claiming victory that we currently hold. But these are big wins.
How are you going?
Bass, Bonner. I'm claiming, well, thanks for asking.
Well, we needed to.
I am claiming victory in McMahon, and I do want to just, in all seriousness, take a moment to thank my campaign team and my community for their support. And Independent's spent $1 million on the campaign in McMahon, and the people of McMahon saw through it and have supported me, and I'm just so honoured with that support. And it has been quite the ride over the last few days, the last week, with the Independent spending $1 million and the Liberal Party pre-selecting a former Labor Party councillor. But on that result, that is actually a swing to me. And when you've got someone spending so much money on your campaign, and you've got the Liberal Party actually running a campaign with a former Labor councillor, that is really moving. And I want to thank my campaign team.
Do you want to? Hang on, no, you're a little bit emotional.
Well, it's a big deal. You know, when you've represented a community for 20 years and you've got somebody who doesn't live in the area coming in and spending $1 million pretending to be a community independent, and you think, well, hang on, $1 million is a lot of money. You know, we spent nowhere near that in my campaign, but we did have 20 years of hard work together with the community to call back on. So thank you to the people of McMahon. It means a lot to me.
Congratulations to you, Chris, on winning McMahon again. I've got to say, I think Max Chandler Mather losing in Griffith will make Anthony Albanese really, really happy.
Make him happy.
A lot of us happy.
He's one of the few people that really got under Anthony's skin in the last 3 years on the housing stuff. So that's going to make Anthony pleased. But congratulations to you on winning McMahon.
Thank you. And there was a fake opinion poll put out during the campaign showing me on 19% support, which 2 newspapers put on the front page.
Really?
And I'm on 62.6% support. So it's just a reminder to certain newspapers, be careful about fake polls that you will put on your front page.
And Katie, have you secured your very hard-to-win seat in Canberra yet?
Well,
checking the computer.
It's looking okay. I mean, it's two Senate spots there. David Pocock doing very well, but I'm pretty confident I'll be okay.
Okay.
Congratulations to you.
Okay. Well done. Let's go to Liberal Party HQ in Brisbane, where former Prime Minister Tony Abbott has just arrived. These pictures just in.
Couple of words. Look, obviously Peter should have the first word tonight, and I'll let him have the first word, and maybe I'll have something to say later on,
Where does the
okay?
Liberal Party go from here, Mr Abbott?
I still think there's just a whole lot of shock in the coalition, in the Liberal camp tonight, that this has played out as it has, but also that it has played out so quickly.
Yeah.
I think, like, we were all prepared for a
Long
really,
night.
really
A long night.
long night.
That's fair.
Yeah.
And when Charles just went and dropped that bombshell on us a while back, I think it really threw us. And I mean, you know, I wonder if Tony Abbott's regretting the flight up to Brisbane to Liberal
I don't think
headquarters
he'd regret
tonight.
it. I think he's
Yeah.
with his heartland. But yeah, it is a shock. The results are shocking.
He was
Everyone's
out there.
worked incredibly hard. And as we said when we started, there was a lot of could have gone either way, but...
He was out there with Dan Tehan 3 months ago. When things were going rough for Dan Tehan. Tony Abbott was door knocking.
That's right.
Former Prime Ministers don't do that often. It's a reflection.
OK, let's go to Goldstein now in Victoria and see how the numbers are turning for Tim Wilson and Zoe Daniel.
Yeah, this was one that the Liberals might have seen as a gain at some point. They probably still see as a gain. That's close, isn't it? That's going to flow through. Tim probably needs to be higher than 39.4 on a two-party. That gets Zoe Daniel squeaking in.
It's a swing too.
It's a you take it as a lift.
Trend is your friend.
That's right, and there's going to be more votes coming.
I'll take it.
Rita Dutton.
You're taking anything you can
Oh,
get
today.
Well, there might be a story there about Victoria
Well, I
and
mean,
picking
it's
up.
Well, I think honestly, this seat, and I said it at the opening, huge Jewish community,
Yep.
and you know, I think the events of the last few years have really rocked them.
Yep.
And that's a
Fair to say.
1.7% swing so far with 33.5% counted. It only has to become 1.9 and it's all over Red Rover, right? So for Zoe Daniel, I mean. And in the next 25,000 votes being counted, postals and pre-polls, you can't assume that she's going to win that
I don't
seat.
think that's one we're calling tonight.
No,
No.
that's
No.
going to be in
That
play.
was
for a
in
lot.
play.
So what of the pre-poll situation? What are you hearing, Chris?
Well, nothing in particular, but you know that would come down to postals and absentee votes. You know, people who voted today, but potentially in Western Australia or anywhere in Australia, those votes won't get counted till Monday or Tuesday. So when a seat is that close, I just don't see how we call it tonight.
You know, when there is this much movement, and like I don't know about you, I'm kind of even struggling to keep up with who's in and who's out and who's lost their seat. It feels like it is time for the dunk tank. Just to be clear, I shouldn't say it with a smile,
is
should I? Like, it
desperate
is
for the dunk
brutal and it is mean, but it's, you know, it is time to see, you know, where we're sitting right now and who is out, Liz Daniels.
It certainly is, Ali. Labor has had a very good night out at the carnival, it would seem, and Anthony Albanese is taking home a small pool of goodies. We need our dunk master to come in. Come on, Charlie.
I'm here. Hello.
You're here.
I'll
All
stand there.
right,
You go around
I'm
the back.
going around the back of this bad
buttons
boy.
up.
We tested that it worked earlier, and we do have some 8 MPs that need to now be dunked out of Parliament using our dunk master. So, without further ado, let us line them up. Our first
Max Channel
dunker.
either. Do you want this one, Katie, or you sure? You sure you don't want this one? This feels like the Greens member for Griffith is no more. 3, 2, 1. The ball hits.
Fire
He
him up.
dips, and down he goes.
Another one-term wonder is next up in the tank. We have Brisbane, Stephen Bates.
Greensland again.
Another one. Do you want to do it? You do the honours, Christopher.
Go on, yeah.
Count us in.
3, 2,
1.
Down he goes.
Splashdown. And Luke Howarth in Petria. We are now into the Liberals, and this is where Labor's really gained ground tonight.
We're more in Queensland. Other gain, Luke Howarth has been on the front bench for a little while. He's now in the drink. 3, 2, 1.
Off he goes.
Down he goes into that seat.
Oh, alrighty. Into Deakin now with Michael Sukkar.
This is remarkable, this one. This
is
is one of the someone that was future leader. He was, I think, the leader of the House, or the leader of the opposition in the House. No more. 3, 2, 1. Michael Sukkar goes into the drink like that.
And who is next on our list?
David
next
Coleman.
is, we've called
Banks,
it in.
wow.
Banks, off he goes. A quick one for us, David Coleman. He doesn't look too happy about going into the drink. 3, 2, and 1. Throw the target.
He was a
he
former employee of Channel 9 too, so we don't like seeing those people go into the water.
No,
Thank
we
you for your
definitely
service, David
don't.
Coleman.
And then we've got James Stevens in Sturt. This is a tough one for one of our panellists to be watching.
You're going to have
this
to make
seat
Christopher Pine do it.
the other way. Want to count us in? Righto, throw the
Close your
ball.
eyes,
3, 2, 1.
In
Take
he
a deep
goes.
breath. In he goes.
Yeah.
And all right.
Now,
we're still
Ross Vasta,
going.
another Queensland MP. He's been around for a long time, fought hard for this seat a number of times. Signs were tough when the Prime Minister went up there for pre-poll. The results are in 3, 2, 1, and so is Ross Vasta
into the drink. Off he goes.
And now, this is a big one. Peter Dutton, the leader of the opposition, a former Home Affairs Minister, Health Minister, Defence Minister, someone who served the country in the Parliament for many years.
20 years, Charles.
Yep,
He has
fought
been
off tight
24
elections. He once said there was water lapping at the door. I think that's what he's feeling right now.
Oh.
His hero politically is John Howard, and like John Howard before him, he has lost his seat as leader of the Liberal Party. And a genuine thank you to your service, Peter Dutton, but also into the drink. 3, 2, 1.
Throw the ball.
Oh,
it is.
Remarkable.
And off he goes. And that pretty much sums up the night for the coalition.
Remarkable.
OK, thank you,
That
Charles and
hurts.
Liz. I'm just curious. They're all human beings. They all have served their country and they've done their very best. You have different politics, that's clear. But how do you feel when you see someone that you've served with in the Parliament for a long time lose his seat and the election?
I was about to make a very similar point to that. I mean, these are human beings. Peter Dutton in particular, you know, obviously I agree with about 1% of what Peter Dutton thinks, but he has served his country for 25 years and he has sacrificed time away from his family. He's been up early in the morning, travelling around Australia as Defence Minister and a range of portfolios.
He lives with constant security?
Yes, yes. And, you know, it's a very tough night. He went in today, you know, a little while ago, maybe thinking he'd end up as Prime Minister, and now we're not quite claiming Dixon yet, to be clear, but, you know, looking quite likely that he won't even be in Parliament. So on a personal level, whenever I've interacted with him, you know, on aeroplanes or in Parliament corridors, he's been entirely civil, polite, appropriate, a decent human being. So, you know, my thoughts are with him and his family.
Katie, quickly.
Yeah, look, I don't think we take any pleasure in seeing the individual losses. I mean, obviously we've campaigned for a Labor victory, and so tonight we're pleased with the result. But, you know, in a strange way, and probably Australia's strangest workplace, we are all colleagues, we share time together, we work together on things. So, yeah, I think it's very, very difficult for those that lose their seats.
OK.
All human beings.
Stay with us. Thank you, Katie and Chris. You're watching Nine special coverage of election 2025. Australia decides. We'll be back shortly. Welcome back to Australia 25. This 2025 decides. Live pictures now coming from Kirribilli House on a wet Sydney night on Sydney Harbour. The Prime Minister, Anthony Albanese, hopping into C1, and they will now make a 23-minute drive from Kirribilli on the lower north shore of Sydney to the Canterbury Hurlstone RSL Club, which is 15 kilometres away. So we are calling, as you know, that Labor has won the election and the Prime Minister is now moving towards Canterbury Hurlstone RSL, where we saw those scenes of great elation not that long ago when we called the election.
Proper party waiting for Anthony Albanese when he arrives there. We saw there from Sarah Arbo a little bit earlier when that was effectively called at about 8:30, and that is him leaving Kirribilli House pretty early. The convoy making their way through the city, as you say, Pete?
Yes, they will sweep now down to either the... I don't know which route they'll take. They might sweep up onto the Harbour Bridge, over the Harbour Bridge and straight out to Canterbury Hurlstone RSL. As I said, about a 15-kilometre drive. He'll be a very happy person sitting in the back of Commonwealth One as they move there. And we've got the camera on a motorbike, by the look of it, trailing
Not
the Prime
dangerous
Minister.
in the rain at all.
So, Katie, he is a stickler for tradition. And he will be waiting for Peter Dutton to not only call him, but then tradition would dictate that he would speak first. Peter Dutton.
You would expect so. And I think, look, again, we're so fortunate in Australia, really, to have a situation where we have these robust campaigns.
Absolutely.
But actually, Peter Dutton and Anthony Albanese would speak as often as they needed to. And it was always, you know, a very, you know, good outcome, whatever they were seeking to resolve. So they know each other, they respect each other. PM is a traditionalist, so he will be following tradition
Formalities to the T.
Yes, he will. But it's lovely to see him and Jodie there. I just got a glimpse of Jodie, who's been by his side through this campaign, and I don't think it's easy being the partner of a leader of a party during an election campaign.
We've seen that with the partners of both, Peter Dutton,
Yeah.
and they've been alongside them the whole way, and it's exhausting, as you guys know, those 5
Absolutely.
weeks. But we've
Yep.
seen so much change tonight. We're going to head over to Liz in the virtual tally room to just see what the state of the House is, how that is shaping up, Liz.
Yeah, Ali, there was a lot of talk tonight about the potential for a minority government. Well, inside the virtual tally room now, when we have a virtual House of Representatives. Right now, our computer is calling 70 seats for Labor, and they will be dealing with a crossbench of at least 9, according to our computer. You can see our crossbenches here in the grey. Labor MPs in the red, and that one green that we have called. These are the seats that are in doubt now. They are the 40 seats that we have in doubt. Remembering our target of 70 was the target for the night. And so that is looking like, with 30 seats called, that the coalition is nowhere near being able to fill out these seats. They will be hoping that some of those seats that are actually at the moment in the grey will fall their way, but it is looking like a sweeping sort of sea of red here with that crossbench that Labor will be dealing with, or potentially, as we see these numbers roll through, some of those in-doubt seats could also fall Labor's way.
Yeah, and they're not too far off hitting that magic 76 number, are they, Liz? Thank you for that. We're going to go to Dan Rapopoli in the Hunter. Dan, how are you feeling about tonight and how it has played out for you?
G'day guys, I'm feeling very good. We'll wait and see what the numbers finally end up being, but it's fantastic to be here.
Well, let us tell you what the numbers are, or the ones that we are seeing coming in. You're sitting at 43.3% of the primary vote. That's up 2.7, with more than 30% of the vote counted. So that ain't bad, Dan.
It's pretty good. We've worked hard over the last 3 years. There's not just me as the MP, as the team and all the volunteers behind me. We've worked extremely hard. So the results are what the results, and very proud of all the team.
Dan, you're in a coal mining community there. It is an area where one of the nuclear power plants was slated for. You're the chairman of the Nuclear Committee. What does this tell you about energy policy and the future of manufacturing in Australia?
So clearly this shows that nuclear is not on the cards here in the Hunter. And Peter Dutton and his crew can say what they like there, but the voters have now had their vote and they've had their say. And now that we've had this, I think they really should put this to bed, and we should continue on with making sure that we're doing the best for Australia.
Do you think it came down to nuclear, or are there other factors at play here?
I honestly think it came down to the hard work we've done as a group in the Hunter over the last 3 years. We've been to everything. We've worked hard, we've gone around, we've spoken to as many people as we can, and we'll continue to do that for the next 3 years as well.
What about cost of living in the Hunter? It's tough for everyone, but it's an area where it is particularly tough. Was that the theme as you spoke to your constituents on a daily basis, not over the campaign, but over a long time?
Over the last 3 years, cost of living has came up a lot. And people are definitely doing it tough here in the Hunter, and that's why we've done our cost of living measures that have really helped people in this area. And unfortunately, the opposition voted no to every single one of those to help Australians out and people in the Hunter out. We'll continue to work with the people of the Hunter and people around Australia to make sure that we're doing the best that we can for them, and so that they can get on with their lives as best they can.
Good on you, Dan. To you and your team and your supporters, we send our congratulations. Well done. Thank you. as we take live pictures there in the corner of your screen. They're going over the main deck of the Harbour Bridge, they being the Prime Minister and Jodie, his fiancée, and they are heading to Canterbury Hurlstone RSL, where there is a big crowd who have had a couple of drinks already waiting to see him and cheer him on. We're going to go to Jerome Laxell now in the seat of Bennelong, perhaps one of the most famous seats in Australian politics. John Howard owned it for a long time. Then, like Peter Dutton, or we think Peter Dutton, he's gone into the dunk tank, he's gone. But Jerome, this was notionally Liberal, this seat. And let's put up the numbers so we can just check how it's all working for you. But it looks like you've got this well and truly in the bag.
Yeah, Peter, it looks like it's in the bag. And because we were notionally Liberal, it looks like we've won it off them twice.
I felt like that needed a little bit more from the team.
Jerome, you've not just won it off, you've got a 14.2% swing to you. I can't find a bigger swing to a sitting member. What's happened there?
I think we've seen a complete rejection of Peter Dutton and the Liberals' negative tactics. We've seen that they've been climate deniers for way too long, and they didn't learn the message at the last election. They've opposed every cost of living measure, and they didn't learn that either. People around here want a government that's not divisive, that's in the middle, and at this election, Labor was able to do that through the leadership of Anthony Albanese and an extraordinary cabinet. We've worked really hard over the last 3 years, and we've been rewarded tonight. Day off tomorrow, back to work on Monday.
Yeah, I reckon you all deserve the night off.
Katie, Chris, you want to say something to Jerome?
Well, Jerome, congratulations, mate. You are a Labor hero for winning that seat. And as you said, this is a seat which is not historically Labor territory, but not only are you a wonderful MP, but you've highlighted the issues that are important to your community. You're constantly talking to me about climate change and energy and the policy settings we've got. Big supporter of our policy for 30% off the cost of a battery and a strong opponent of nuclear. And as we've said before, if this election was a referendum on energy, the Australian people have decided it, and the people of Bennelong have decided quite resoundingly who they want to represent them, and it is you, my friend.
Thanks, Chris.
Katie?
You'll be getting
On
a call
you,
from me next
Jerome.
week.
That is it. It is straight back to work.
Yeah, good on you, Jerome, to you and your team. You've just run an extraordinary campaign and you've worked hard every single day, and that matters, and you've been rewarded tonight for all of that. So I hope it feels good, and, yeah, definitely day off tomorrow.
Good on you, Jerome. Thank you, Katie, Chris. The Prime Minister is on his way to the Canterbury Hurlstone RSL. More from him shortly. We'll take a break on Nine special coverage of election 2025. Australia Decides. We'll be back shortly. Welcome back, everyone, to Australia Decides 2025, and they have decided. The Prime Minister is on his way to the Canterbury Hurlstone Park RSL. We'll be joining him live shortly. Ali, what have you got for us?
Well, I tell you what, Pete, I don't think any of us expected to be sitting here this early, and you've got to be wondering what is going through Anthony Albanese's mind right now as he makes his way along to the RSL with Jodie, where, as we saw earlier, there is a huge room of people waiting for him. Protocol would suggest that he will wait until Peter Dutton calls him and speaks before he addresses that crowd. But, I mean, sometimes we haven't heard from the leader of a party until 1 o'clock in the morning, after midnight, and here we are at...
We have Christopher Pine, he can fill the gaps.
He can tell us all the time.
Long gap to
No, but just happening so quickly tonight. Yeah. But Sarah Arbo is at Labor headquarters. She got the good gig. She got where the party is at. Sarah, how is it there on the ground?
Good evening, Ali. Well, it is absolutely pumping here at the ground. I have Tony Burke here with me, who has retained his seat of Watson. Tony, congratulations.
Oh, thanks, Sarah. It's looking good. It's looking good.
You're not overly confident just yet?
Look, it's for the PM to make any declaration. But, look, so much we wanted to do, so much we wanted to help people with, and you're in the biggest job interview that the nation ever goes through. And you don't know, it could all finish all of a sudden. And, you know, I've never had more conversations about Medicare in my life, and a whole lot of things we did early in wages and things like that, people are starting to see a difference. So I'm really hopeful about what the next 3 years could mean.
Are you relieved, though? I mean, in your seat of Watson, there was some talk about perhaps Muslim Votes Matter making some inroads there and gaining that from you, but you've retained it. How do you feel right now?
Look, there was still a very real sense of grievance and disappointment within parts of the community. And so I think even with the win, I don't put that to one side. That's something that's important. And one of the things that I've noticed with the Booths, the areas that I've represented for the longest, the vote's been the strongest. And in the areas after the redistribution of people who haven't really known me before, the vote isn't as strong. So there's a bit of work to do because ultimately you want people to know who you are and then they make their judgment based on that.
Tony, what was it like walking into this room? A sea of red. There has been victory after victory on the boards behind us. What was that moment like for you walking in here?
Look, it's even better when you've had all the build-up of being underestimated. Yeah.
What do you mean the polls were all pointing to this?
Oh, I know, but there's been plenty of commentary only a few months back that the PM wasn't able to do this. There was some pretty strong commentary out there, and if there is ever a lesson that people never seem to learn, you don't underestimate Anthony Albanese. And we kept saying it to people, and they say, "Oh no, but you're behind." When he was pushed against the wall at that point, he just was really targeted. He knew what Australians wanted, and he's now put us forward with an agenda that'll make a real difference for a lot of people under pressure.
We know he's on his way here from Kirribilli. What do you reckon the first words out of his mouth will be when he hits the stage?
Oh, I don't know, but they'll be lucky if they can be heard over the chanting of his name that'll be happening in this room.
Big night. Thank you so much, Tony. Congratulations again.
Thank you.
So, yeah, it's just so much joy around here. A lot of people are relieved. We were expecting this result, but I think not quite as emphatic as this, Ali and Pete. So we are standing by for the Prime Minister to arrive any moment. Who knows?
Yeah. So Sarah, just sort of give us a sense in that room when the room started to understand that this was going to be an Anthony Albanese win.
So early. I mean, what did we call it? Like at 8:30, I think, right? It was much earlier than a lot of people had anticipated because though the polls had been pointing to a result like
Not
this,
that anyone's
it was... I don't
Sorry,
think they're quite
Charles
expected it to be as
Croucher was just
large
saying
as
it was
this.
8:20. He called it. Yeah.
Oh, 8:20. Sorry, Charlie. I was watching, okay, but it's just, there's a Collingwood game on too, so I was half watching that. This is the party. Oh, they like it.
Okay, we're just seeing pictures there. Sarah, we're going to leave you there for a moment. This is Peter Dutton meeting and greeting all the supporters, the volunteers who have worked so hard as he addresses the crowd in Brisbane there tonight alongside his wife Kirribilli and the kids.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. Thank you very much. Well, tonight's not the night that we wanted for the Liberal Party or for our coalition or indeed for our country. But we've worked hard every day over the course of the last 3 years to do our best for our amazing country. One of the great honours of being the leader of this party is that we have met people from every side, every corner, the length and breadth of this country. And there are many amazing stories. People who have sacrificed, people who are doing it hard at the moment. And I've always wanted in public life for the best for our country and the best for every Australian. The highlight of my career has been as the Defence Minister, and over the course of this campaign, on Anzac Day, we caught up with young veterans in Townsville at the RSL, and it reminded me of how lucky we are as a country. And I want to acknowledge all of those men and women in uniform who keep us safe as a country. Now, we didn't do well enough during this campaign. That much is obvious tonight, and I accept full responsibility for that. Earlier on, I called the Prime Minister to congratulate him on his success tonight. It's an historic occasion for the Labor Party, and we recognise that. I congratulated the Prime Minister and wished he and Jodie and Nathan all the very best. And I said to the Prime Minister that his mum would be incredibly proud of his achievement tonight, and he should be very proud of what he's achieved. Thank you. I also had the pleasure of speaking with Ali France, and Ali and I have been combatants for a number of elections now, but she was successful in Dixon tonight, and she will do a good job as a local member. She lost her son Henry, which is a tragic circumstance that no parent should ever go through. And equally, I said to Ali that her son Henry would be incredibly proud of her tonight, and she'll do a good job as a local member for Dickson, and I wish her all the very best. Please. Now, it's been a great honour to be leader of this amazing party for the last 3 years. And I want to firstly acknowledge David Littleproud, who has been a great partner in crime. He's led the National Party with great distinction. He's had the strength of character to stand up on issues which are important to us, and we've worked incredibly well together. He's done a great job, and he will do into the future. I want to say thank you very much to Susan Lee as my deputy, and also Angus Taylor as a shadow treasurer, and other senior members who have contributed to the success of the last couple of years. I also want to say a very, very big thank you tonight, most importantly, to the millions of Australians who have supported the Liberal Party, the Coalition. It's not our night, as I point out, and there are good members, good candidates who have lost their seats or their ambition, and I'm sorry for that. We have an amazing party and we'll rebuild. Can I say thank you very much to John Olsen as the president of the party. He's done a fantastic job, to Andrew Hurst and all of the secretariat for the work that they've done. I want to say thank you to my staff who are just amazing, led by Alex Dalgleish, Jody, Martine, Jackie, Selma, all of the EO staff, my advanced team, the AFP, who have done an amazing job for our family. And I want to say thank you very much. Thank you. I have the best media team in the country, led by Nicole Chant and Adrian Barrett and their team. They've done an amazing job, and I'm so grateful to them. And to all of our loyal staff, thank you very much. That leaves me, of course, with the hardest part, that is my amazing family. Australians have seen... Please, yeah. Thank you. I'm blessed to have an amazing family in Kirralee, in Beck and Harry and Tom, and they... Please, yeah. Thank you. They've stood by me through thick and thin, and I'm so grateful for their support and their love. Can I say thank you to the people of Dickson and to our amazing supporters in Dickson. Dickson had a one-term curse. It was only ever held for one term at a time, and we've held it for 24 years, which is an amazing achievement. 24 years is a long time to be in public life, and it has been an amazing honour. But I do want to say thank you to the people of Dickson who have placed faith in me over a long period of time. And we've had lots of battles and lots of campaigns. Ultimately, we've been able to deliver an amazing outcome for our local community. To residents and to people that we've been able to help, people who were with loved ones who were sick and stranded, infrastructure projects. There are many ways in which we've been able to provide amazing support, and I want to say thank you very much to them. Our Liberal family is hurting across the country tonight, but including in my electorate of Dickson, and I want to say thank you very much to all of them. They are amazing people dedicated to their country. Ultimately, we live in the best country in the world, and I've always believed that. I always will. I love this country and I've fought hard for it. We've been defined by our opponents in this election, which is not the truth of who we are. But we'll rebuild from here. We'll do that because we know our values, we know our beliefs, and we'll always stick to them. I want to say thank you to the Australian people for the faith they've placed in me, and thank them for the great honour of having been the member for Dickson and the leader of the opposition. Thank you very much. Thank you.
A dignified, heartfelt concession speech there by Peter Dutton. Charles.
Tough speech to give for Peter Dutton. He started by saying it's not the night we wanted. That's an understatement. A few things stood out. Thanking the AFP shows the kind of man that he is.
Absolutely.
And the things that he values, the people that take time to try and, to help him and his family out. Also, the thought of thanking the returned servicemen. He mentioned Townsville RSL. I was in the room with him on Anzac Day. He loved that.
Yeah.
They loved him. And that was the side of Peter Dutton I don't think we saw enough throughout this campaign. That was the side that was on display there.
Yeah, Charles, I think you're right. I've worked with 4 leaders of the Liberal Party, 3 of them in the leadership group of the coalition, and Peter Dutton, what you saw then is the calibre of the man, a man of character, principle, served his country, served his party, with distinction, achieved a lot, endured a lot, and I think he's a man of integrity, a man that takes responsibility. No matter what. And I think you saw exactly the calibre of the man in that, a patriot who loves our country and wants the very best for it. I think it's an incredibly sad day, just not for the coalition and the Liberal Party, but obviously for the people of Dickson and his family, because, he's been part of their lives for decades.
Yeah, look, a very generous speech, I thought, but it's a very big moment for the Liberal Party and the coalition. Christopher, what do they do next?
Well, can I just say on Peter Dutton's concession speech that what I liked about that is that he didn't lash out and try and blame other people.
No.
Often you see on nights like this that the leader or the defeated premier or leader of the opposition or prime minister, whomever it might be, always trying to find a scapegoat for the defeat. He has accepted responsibility, and that's the measure of Peter Dutton. I've always thought he's been a very misunderstood character in politics. He's always been given tough jobs to stop the boats and to make that message very clear to the public when he was in Home Affairs. That was always very hard to overcome. A lot of people held that against him for a long time, and obviously still do tonight. But I think that concession speech was the measure of Peter Dutton, and good on him. What do we learn? Well, there's a few things we have to learn. One, we have to learn that you cannot win elections from the right of the political spectrum any more than you can win them from the left of the political spectrum. That elections are won either from the centre-left or the centre-right. John Howard learnt that lesson after his first term as the leader of the party. In his second term, he brought everyone together, small L Liberals, Conservatives, and when the coalition is a genuine coalition of smaller Liberals and Conservatives, Labor finds it very hard to beat. And the measure of that is that we've won a lot more elections than Labor in the last 80 years, federally at least, not state by state, but certainly federally. So that's something we have to learn. We have to reach out to a much wider group of people, and losing those seats in inner Sydney and Brisbane and now Sturt and others is as a direct consequence of affluent, small L Liberal voters who economically support the coalition and socially are more progressive.
It presents as a structural problem now, doesn't it?
Well, it doesn't have to be a structural problem, Andrew.
Well, it looks like one.
Well, I assume that one of the things that, Dan Tehan said we need to have a post-election post-mortem.
Christopher,
We do.
Can I just hold the philosophy for 1 sec? We are standing by, everyone, to hear Prime Minister Albanese and his speech at the Canterbury Helston Park RSL. They are on their way under police escort, so we will cross to that hopefully, they have arrived, I've just been told.
I've just got pre-poll numbers in Kooyong from the Malvern booth.
Yep.
Monique Ryan, 33.5%. Amelia Hamer, 66.5%. That's the Malvern pre-poll in Kooyong.
Can I just go back to Peter Dutton's speech? Did we see actually a bit more of Peter Dutton then? Because I happened to, by chance, sit next to him at a function, and he was the most personable bloke. We talked about family, we talked about life, and I walked away thinking to myself, I don't see that when a TV camera rolls. And then I suddenly saw maybe just a few layers of veneer come away, and perhaps a bit more of the Peter Dutton you guys know.
100%. I find him a very humble leader, a very inclusive leader, and strong. And that's a very rare combination to have all together. And I think Christopher's right. The roles he's had publicly have meant he's had to be very stoic, very authoritarian, which hasn't allowed him to show that compassionate
Yeah.
space.
On that, I've always thought that, or long thought that Peter Dutton's got a touch of the Julia Gillard about him.
yeah.
The way that he hasn't been able to project that other side of his personality. And I think it is to do with a lot of the jobs he's been given. He's also actually really shy.
Yeah.
And that's the really strange mix in the man, that the notion that he has that personal...
For me, that moment in that speech where he talked about calling Anthony Albanese and calling Ali France and making that reference to both of them as to a mother and a son will be proud. To me, you know, and he meant that and he felt that and you could really feel it. You cannot underestimate how tough tonight is for him and his family. 24 years of service he has given this country, whether you agree with his views on things or not. He is a man who deeply cares about his country and who's deeply feeling the loss tonight. As we turn our attention, I guess, to the fact that, you know, it's a very different mood in the Anthony Albanese camp and at the RSL where he is at the moment. Katie, have you heard from the Prime Minister? Do we have any idea when we might be hearing from him tonight?
No, I haven't heard, and I imagine the first things anyone are going to hear is when he... turn your earpiece down for the cheering, and then when he takes the stage. And for him tonight, it will be a real moment. He's an emotional guy. He will be missing his mum. He will be thinking of her, no doubt. But he has been front and centre of our campaign, so he should really soak all this in tonight. He's a Prime Minister with a lot of authority. He knew what he wanted to do. You know, I think I heard him tell journalists he's been non-stop since the 5th of January, and that's true. He's been every single day. He's known exactly where he wants to be at the end of the day, at the end of the week, at the end of the campaign, and he hit all of those right.
You know how tired you all are feeling, right, after a 5-week campaign? Imagine it for the leaders where, you know, what their commitment is, and there is camera on them every single moment of the day.
Can I just jump in before the Prime Minister arrives? You'll note at the bottom of the screen, Labor has reached 76 seats. Officially on our tally. That would be...
That's the magic number.
That's the magic number, and they're there and been projected. There's lots more to come. There's a list of seats that they've won. But tonight...
And we haven't even started WA.
You go Banks, Bass, Bonner, Braddon, Brisbane, that's just the Bs.
Wow.
There's 5. So, yeah, it's a good night for
Well, that's a perfect cue, Charles, to go to the virtual tally room and check in with Liz Daniels, because if by chance you've just got home from a dinner party or you've been out for dinner, you might want to know what's happening. Let's give you an overview of what's happened tonight, because it has been, as Ali said, a lot.
That's right, Peter. Step back inside our virtual tally room because it is right now time to have a look at the numbers, and we will have a look at the national primary vote. The ALP winning 34.3% of the primary vote, gaining ground across the country. The coalition with just 30% of the primary vote, a 5-point haircut, and that is not enough for a coalition to be able to win an election. In New South Wales, virtually the same story as the national result, a 6-point haircut for the coalition, 1-point gain for the ALP, and the independents had a good night in New South Wales. In Queensland, it was a diabolical night in Queensland for the opposition leader in his home state, in his home seat as well. A 7-point haircut for the coalition. Labor gained 3 points in Queensland. In South Australia, a 3-point gain for Labor, an 8-point drop for the coalition, minor gains for the Greens and One Nation there. Tasmania saw a 9-point gain for Labor, a whopping gain in Tasmania. The coalition seeing a really bad night in Tasmania for the coalition, 9 points down. The independents had a good night in Tasmania as well. In Victoria, we did not see what we were expecting, which was that resentment towards a tired state government translating at a national level. The coalition down 2 points there. The independent up 1, the Greens up 1. In Western Australia, these are our earliest numbers. The first look we're getting at the primary vote in Western Australia. Labor and the coalition both taking a haircut in Western Australia. Look at that One Nation vote. Obviously, these are early in the night numbers for WA. And of course, as we've been doing all night, we do want you to have your say. This is your election. After all, you can vote in our 9 News poll, 9news.com.au, or scan the QR code on your screen. Our next question after Peter Dutton has lost his seat in Parliament. Who is best to take over the leadership of the Liberal Party? We had Angus Taylor, we had Susan Lee, we had Andrew Hastie, but the people have spoken. 34% said it is time to return to Parliament.
Find me a seat.
Sturt's unavailable, I'm afraid. Well, there you go. So thank you, Liz. Thank you so much for your work in the virtual tally room. We'll come back to you, no doubt, before the night comes to an end. But Anthony Albanese is at the Canterbury Hurlstone Park RSL in Sydney. We will be hearing from him soon. But Charles mentioned the bees. It might be time, Charles, to run through a few more seats and just see where things stand. Let's first of all go to Banks in New South Wales.
Let's whip through some of these seats. Banks in New South Wales is probably one of those ones that's still a bit on a knife edge because it's so close. But it's a remarkable drop for David Coleman, losing 7.6%. Ji Sun hasn't gained that much vote, but it's just that vote coming off and seemingly scattering amongst the Greens and maybe One Nation. That's why the flow-through gets to 54.1%. The computer and the decision desk say that's gone. We'll wait and see. It's still going to be a long count.
Very low primary for him, though, isn't it?
Very low primary to try and win from there. Braddon in the Bass in the top of Tasmania, long held a Bridget Archer seat. This is where Anthony Albanese launched the unofficial campaign with Jess Teasdale as being the introduction. She's going to win the seat.
Let's just go to Sarah Arbo, who is standing by with Wayne Swan.
Queensland are extraordinary, but there are plenty of them around the country, but the gain in Dixon was pretty good.
Did you anticipate that one was going to go?
Right.
Thank you very much, Wayne Swan there.
There you go, the former Federal Treasurer with Sarah Arbo and President.
Labor President,
Yes, of this Labor Party. Let's go back to you, Charles.
Yeah, let's continue in Tasmania. Braddon was a seat that the Liberal Party held coming into this. It's the Big Salmon seat. It's one of the ones that has the... it is. That's where the salmon comes.
It is, absolutely.
Yeah, that's the salmon seat.
The big lobster in robe.
I've got it written, salmon seat.
Salmon in...
That's a big swing. A big swing in the Big Salmon seat.
Salmon
Urquhart
Wars.
has done an amazing job there
never
picking
get
up
enough lobster.
16.6%. Stop talking about everything other than the vote.
I'm trying to distract us.
I can tell.
I'm trying to distract
Future leader stuff.
Fair enough, too.
57.4%, a remarkable result for Anne Urquhart.
Yeah,
she
that's a
leaves the upper house, becomes a member of the lower house. Into Melbourne, Deakin. This is Michael Suka's seat. He is still in a fight. He's gone back to the lead. This is what you're talking about with that shift. But
that's right.
That's still not enough. That would need all of those independents to flow through to him. I mean, it's still 54. Again, though, there's hope there. That's what you're talking about. That's
absolutely.
We may have dunked it too early, that one.
You know, I think we might have dunked a few too early.
Well,
we'll see.
Christopher's been shredded and he's going to be leader of the Liberal Party, so it can work. In Victoria, also, Menzies is another seat where there are future leadership potentials, and it would be a generational wipeout for the Liberal Party. It's looking bad for Keith Wallahan on those number. Gabriel Ung is on 36.8%. He's bumped his vote a little. It's also one of those seats, though, where there was just no margin to play with, and a 13% vote for the Green would make that difficult two-party. It's still tight. That's one that you can look at getting back next time around if it goes that way.
Okay, what
Can I
about
just say, Charles, which is kind of interesting, your tally, which was 76 for the ALP moments ago...
has just dropped 20.
With pre-polls starting to be counted, has just dropped 20 seats in one go.
We'll look at that. That seems unusual.
Did you notice that?
Yes, I noticed that,
Yeah. Well, I read out the
gets past my beady
Malvern
eyes.
booth.
No, it really doesn't, does it?
I read out the Malvern booth. Like, these pre-polls are big booths.
Yeah.
All right, this is Hughes, where David Moncrief is on 40% and 64% of the vote is counted. With the Libs there's some trumpeter patriots have scattered 10% over there. That'd be enough, you'd think, two-party preferred. Again, 2/3 of the vote counted there in Hughes. The next one is Monash in Victoria, which is intriguing in that there are people and numbers coming in from all over the joint in Monash because the Liberal Party member was sort of...
Russell Broadbent.
Yeah, I can't even... I had to check twice. He didn't even get a vote there. So the independent is ahead in Monash and 51.2%.
That's really potty, isn't it, the way that's...
Yeah, it's gone to a different independent. I don't... Is that
And again,
a teal or is there a...
She's a teal.
Yeah,
And
okay.
in this seat, you've got urban to the north, you've got those coastal communities down south and agriculture in the middle. So quite conservative. So it is a real mixed bag depending on the booths that are counted.
Yeah, look at that primary vote. Labor losing ground, Liberal losing ground, the independents kind of splitting it. There's One Nation votes there. Long count ahead on that one.
I think so.
And if you look Down the tally at the bottom, we're back to 77. So 78.
It's a computer thing. It's a computer thing.
I think in 30 seconds that we had about 6 different.
There's
numbers
Penny
there.
Wong on stage.
OK, let's go.
Introducing the Prime Minister.
Friends, thank you, friends. Thank you all. Thank you for believing in Labor. Thank you for believing in the power of this great nation. The power in our 26 million people from more than 300 ancestries. And from the oldest continuing civilization on the planet. And I acknowledge the traditional owners. Friends, we love this country. We love this country. And representing it to the world is the honour of my life. Because of who we are and what we strive to be. A nation that stands on its own 2 feet, that invests in the aspirations of all of its people, and a nation of courage and of kindness. I saw this purpose and these principles in our campaign across the country. Our hard-working candidates, the thousands of Labor volunteers in every state and territory, in every community, working for a better future. Friends, 3 years ago, the Australian people made a collective decision to turn the page and write a new future for ourselves. Tonight, together, we start the new chapter. And we will write this next chapter so all Australians are part of our nation's story. No matter who we are or where we come from, no matter age or gender, no matter the lottery of birth, Australia's opportunity is for us all. And friends, that Australian story is embodied by our Australian Prime Minister, a man who shows what real strength is, a man of courage, a man of compassion, a leader with the conviction of who we are and what we can be. A leader with a conviction that builds Australia's future. Friends, some might want to mimic the worst of other countries. Albo always backs what's best about our country. Please welcome my dear friend, our Prime Minister, Anthony Albanese. My fellow Australians,
Serving as your Prime Minister is the greatest honour of my life. And it is with a deep sense of humility and a profound sense of responsibility that the first thing that I do tonight is to say thank you to the people of Australia for the chance to continue to serve the best nation on earth. And I acknowledge the traditional owners of the land on which we meet. And I pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging today and every day. Today, the Australian people have voted for Australian values. For fairness, aspiration and opportunity for all. For the strength to show courage in adversity and kindness to those in need. And Australians have voted for a future that holds true to these values, a future built on everything that brings us together as Australians and everything that sets our nation apart from the world. In this time of global uncertainty, Australians have chosen optimism and determination. Australians have chosen to face global challenges the Australian way, looking after each other while building for the future. And to serve these values, meet these challenges, seize these opportunities and build that better and stronger future, Australians have chosen a majority Labor government. I think the Australian people have got the name. A majority Labor government promised and delivered. A short time ago, I spoke with Peter Dutton, who has, of course, conceded defeat. And I thanked him. No. What we do in Australia is we treat people with respect. I thanked Peter for his generous words at the end of what has been a very hard-fought campaign. And I want to take this opportunity to wish Peter and Kiralee and their family all the very best for their future. Now, at election time, parties and candidates ask people to make a choice. And inevitably, the campaign and the coverage is about our differences and our disagreements. That is the nature of our democracy, and it is the role of the media who serve it. But now that the Australian people have made their clear choice, let us all reflect on what we have in common. Because no matter who you voted for, no matter where you live, no matter how you worship or who you love, whether you belong to a culture that has known and cared for this great continent for 65,000 years, or you have chosen our nation as your home and enriched our society with your contribution, we are all Australians. So let all of us work together to build our national unity on the enduring foundations of fairness, equality and respect for one another. My fellow Australians, I know the world has thrown a lot at our country over the past 3 years. I know so many of you have worked hard in the face of significant challenges, and I know there's still much more to do to help people under pressure. That is why it means so much that in these uncertain times, the people of Australia have placed their trust in Labor once again, including so many Australians who have voted Labor for the first time. I make this solemn pledge. We will not forget that. We will never take it for granted. Repaying your trust will drive our government each and every day of the next 3 years. The positive program we took to this election was shaped by the Australian people's priorities, and our government will dedicate the next 3 years to making a positive difference to your lives and to your future, bringing the rewards for your hard work within reach, investing in our youngest Australians, looking after older Australians, and building an economy and a society that is every bit as strong and fair, as resilient and generous as Australians are themselves. From tomorrow, back at work. Maybe not everyone here. And that's probably for the best. We take up this task with new hope, new confidence and new determination. Because together we are turning the corner, and together we will make our way forward with no one held back and no one left behind. Friends, I was raised to be an optimist. My mum had a hard life and we struggled financially. But she taught me to always be positive and see the best in people. When it comes to Australia's future, all of us have so much reason to be optimistic. Because when we look at everything going on around the world today, when we consider the changes that will shape the future of the global economy, when we think about our people and their smarts and skills, truly there's nowhere else you'd rather be than right here in Australia. This is a time of profound opportunity for our nation. We have everything we need to seize this moment and make it our own. And we must do it together, all of us, because for Australia to realise our full potential, for our nation to be its very best, every Australian must have the opportunity to be their best. To serve our Australian values, we must value every Australian, and Labor will govern for every Australian. Every Australian who wants a fair go at work, fair wages for their work, and the right to disconnect when they're done with work. Every Australian who deserves the security of a roof over their head or dreams of owning their own home. Every woman who wants her contribution to our economy and society to be valued equally. Every parent who wants their child to get the best start in life, with cheaper childcare and with fair funding for every student in every school. Everyone who counts on the National Disability Insurance Scheme. We will be a government for every Australian who wants to train or retrain for new skills and a good job at public TAFE. Every Australian who works hard for the life-changing opportunity of higher education and wants 20% cut from their student debt. Every Australian who knows that climate change is a challenge we must act together to meet for the future of our environment. And knows the fact that renewable energy is an opportunity we must work together to seize for the future of our economy. We will be a government that supports reconciliation with First Nations people because we will be a stronger nation when we close the gap between Indigenous and non-Indigenous Australians. And friends, we will be a government that relies and helps every Australian who relies on Medicare. Because this card This card is not Labor red or Liberal blue, it is green and gold. It is a declaration of our national values in our national colours. Medicare belongs to all Australians, and together we will make it stronger for all Australians. Friends, I stand here tonight as the proud leader of an extraordinary team. I stood on the hallowed turf of the G this morning, doing live crosses, making that point. I want to thank all of my colleagues, beginning with my friend, our incredible Deputy Prime Minister, Richard Marles. No one could hope for a better deputy, and I thank him so much. My friend and our Senate leader, Penny Wong, and her deputy, her deputy, Don Farrell. Our economic team led by Jim Chalmers and Katie Gallagher. Our campaign spokesperson, Jason Clare. And we've got a bit of a shared party tonight, and Berkey's here, the member for Watson. My amazing Labor caucus, which when you look at it across the benches, it's representative of the Australian people. I acknowledge all of our fantastic Labor candidates in every seat who put up their hand, gave up their time for our cause and their community. And if you excuse me for singling out one of them, who ran for a third time in Dixon, Ailey Frantz. So many of whom will be joining us as caucus members in Parliament. I want to thank the people of Grayndler, most of whom are here tonight. I've got to say something, it was very special on the way here. There was obviously, I don't know whether there was a drone above us or what have you. My security team said, you know, maybe they're just out on the street. People don't just hang out on New Canterbury Road. And from Lilyfield, Leichhardt, all the way here, I'm sorry, but I won't be moving back for a little while. The people of Grayndler did me an incredible honour in choosing me as their representatives 29 years and 10 elections ago. I've lived in this community in the Inner West my whole life, and it's an incredible privilege to serve a community that you love, and I do love it. To the Labor Party's heart and soul, our rank and file members and the mighty trade union movement of Australia. The Labor Party will always stand up for jobs and people's wages and conditions. Everywhere I have been through this campaign, your energy, your enthusiasm, your dedication to the cause has lifted me up. You inspire all of us in your service of working people, and we thank you. To our magnificent campaign director, National Secretary Paul Erickson. Paul has run an outstanding campaign. Paul and I did tell people May was the right time. And he managed to become a dad during the campaign. He was supported by an absolutely brilliant team. And all of those dedicated people own a part of this victory. And I thank you. To my personal staff, led by Tim Gartrell. The loyalty, the passion, the commitment that you showed. You have a tough job that you perform with grace, with humour, with joy, and just a passion for changing the country for the better. Thank you for what you do. To my son Nathan. Who's grown into a fine young man who I am just so proud of. Thank you. And to my fiancée, Jodie Hayden. probably wasn't expecting for this to be in your life half a dozen years ago. I am so grateful for your support, your friendship and your love. You make me so happy. Which matters. You have my heart, I love you, and I look forward to living our lives together. My fellow Australians, Australians have chosen the Australian Labor Party as their government. It's the Australian way, because we are proud of who we are and all that we have built together in this country. We do not need to beg or borrow or copy from anywhere else. We do not seek our inspiration overseas. We find it right here in our values, our people. Tomorrow we dedicate ourselves to your service. We renew the great responsibility and the opportunity of government, and with pride and purpose, optimism and determination, with faith in the fair go and faith in each other, we return to the work of building Australia's future. Thank you all.
Prime Minister Anthony Albanese in front of an adoring faithful with his son Nathan and fiancée Jodie. Katie and Chris, your reaction to your leader's speech and that moment tonight?
Well, I think that was probably the sweetest speech of all for Anthony, and he joins, you know, I think the greatest Labor leaders of our time in the Australian Labor Party for sure. But what you saw there was a very energised, focused, very clear about what his purpose is, what our purpose is as a government, and ready to get going. And I remember actually while he was speaking, I thought at one of our first meetings after we were elected in 2022, he said to us that he wanted to be a long-term Labor government. He wanted to build to make sure we could get what we need to do done. And I think he's been underestimated all along because he's always had that in his head. But very proud of him and, yeah, humbled by that speech.
Absolutely. It was a magnificent speech and a magnificent night. I mean, I think it's worth just taking a moment just to reflect on the historic nature of tonight. Yeah. The first Prime Minister re-elected in 21 years. 2004 was the last time a Prime Minister served a full time and got re-elected for full term. Peter Dutton tonight is unfortunately the first leader of the opposition in Australian history to lose his seat. 2 Prime Ministers have lost their seat, but no leader of the opposition has previously ever lost their seat. And I think it's fair to say, Christopher and I were comparing notes, the worst coalition defeat since 1943, 82 years. So this is quite the moment. But for us, we'll be back to work on Monday because the Australian people have clearly said to us, more to do, I think.
What is wrong with getting back to work tomorrow? You feel like you deserve it.
There's a right to disconnect. The right to disconnect has been protected, and Katie and I intend to exercise it.
He's also working from home tomorrow. He's done the
Yeah, definitely. In Canberra, Katie.
Yeah.
Boom, boom. Can I do the same? Yeah, it was a good speech. The Prime Minister has gained in confidence throughout this campaign.
Yep.
It struck me the first week how confident he was when you spoke to him privately on the plane. He seemed up and about. Yesterday, even last night, I was talking to him for 9 News, and he just was so relaxed and confident, and he's a confidence player, but I hadn't seen him like that before. I'm not sure if you can say what your track was saying now, but it obviously was saying good things, and that was reflected. I do want to point out there was one point, though, where he mentioned Peter Dutton, and someone yelled out from the crowd, and he stopped the speech and said, no, we don't do that. You can when you've got 87 seats as well, but it's good that he did.
And compared to the last election, that campaign where there were a lot of missteps, he he really has taken control of this.
Well, Paul Ericsson's taken control and deserves all the credit. He has. He ran.
Well, I think the PM deserves a lot of
he does too, of course. Yeah, he ran a discipline campaign and was...
In terms of performance and oration and so on.
I think you've got Paul Ericsson, Tim Gartrell, the PM, that combination of those three, supported by, good infrastructure underneath. It's lethal, the combination of those three.
It's been a tight team, right? But when you listen to that speech, he felt it and he meant it, and you could see, it was almost like a wobbly bottom lip.
It was a lot, yeah.
When he came
we
out.
always watch that.
It is a very big moment after a very long campaign.
Have you got to save the date yet for the wedding?
No, look, I don't even think he's let himself get to there. It's very clear he wants to, he can't wait for that though, and it well deserved, and so lovely to see him and Jodie so happy together as well.
And you spoke very highly of Nathan too, his son.
Oh, I threatened to take Nathan home, to be my son. He's an absolutely wonderful young man who Anthony is very, very rightly proud of.
And adding to the history of it, to think that the ALP can get, say, 34% primary nationally and yet be sitting at 87 seats is remarkable. That just tells you about how modern politics has changed.
Yeah, Bill Shorten got 34% in 2016.
Sure. Yeah, it's truly remarkable. But as Christopher was saying before, Coalition sitting on 33.
Well, I just want to say
horrendous.
Congratulations to the Labor Party and to the Prime Minister. You have a majority.
We passed the
Bridget test. But I did note the PM did say govern for all, and I think for us in the National Party and the Coalition more broadly, we will be holding him to account, particularly for the 9 million of us that live in the regions, around how he will do that in his second term.
Everyone's had something to say. Christopher, do you want to say something?
Well, congratulations to Anthony. He and I were leader of the House and managed opposition business for 10 years. We're like Sam and Ralph. We used to clock on in the morning and fight all day and then clock off in the afternoon. And I like Anthony personally, and I've always had a great deal of respect for him. Another statistic, of course, Chris, is that he's actually the first Labor leader since Bob Hawke to win 2 elections in a row, which is an achievement for the Labor movement. One of my concerns, as we near the end of the coverage, is that because the coalition's gone backwards, we could well be 2 elections away from being seriously competitive.
Got to find a leader.
When Katie talked about a long-term Labor government, that could well be the case unless the Liberal Party and the coalition in general have some deep soul-searching about how to win elections.
OK. Thank you, Christopher. We are going to take a break on Australia Decides. Well, you have decided right here on 9. We will be back shortly to continue our coverage.
Well, welcome back, and tell you what, it has been a very, very big night. I don't know who would have predicted it playing out exactly as it has. We've just heard from Ali France. She's just spoken in the seat of Dickson. She's the new member for Dickson, having just ousted the opposition leader, Peter Dutton. Here she is.
Ali France, 3rd time's the charm. How are you feeling?
It feels pretty good. It feels great. Thank you so much. It's all down to these good people here. They've been amazing. Such a great campaign.
You've managed to unseat a would-be Prime Minister. How does that sit with you?
Well, after 7 years of hard work, it feels pretty good. Yeah, I'm really grateful for all the support. So grateful. So grateful. Yeah, thank you.
Tell us a little bit about her, Katie, very quickly again.
Oh, what an amazing candidate, hard worker. I love Ailey, and she's never given up. I think the word I would use to describe Ailey is resilient. She's had a lot of loss in her life. She lost her leg in a terrible accident outside a car park when a car ran into her when she was protecting her children. She's lost a son in the last 18 months. Just terrible when you think what she has gone through and the fact that she continues to front up and argue for her community. An extraordinary result, really, and all down to her and her team and 7 years of hard work.
a wonderful win for her.
Yeah.
Third time lucky tonight, and you know I can see how much it means to both of you.
Yeah.
It is one of the many seats then that just completely changes the state of play in Canberra. We're still trying to get our heads around it.
Yeah.
Liz Daniels, have you done a better job of that?
Well, Ali, step back into the virtual tally room because we can play it out in our virtual House of Representatives. And you're right, since we last looked, the numbers have significantly changed. We have now seen 87 Labor seats won. Those MPs will sit next to a crossbench of 11 plus the 2 Greens that we've got sitting here. We do have a block in doubt and, of course, our 33 coalition MPs here. But this block could sway in either direction as these seats are decided. But right now, as it stands, Anthony Albanese will lead a sweeping Labor majority government in our House of Representatives.
Good on you, Liz. Thank you. Let's run through some more seats for you. There's still plenty of interest out there. Charles, let's begin with Fowler.
Lots of counting still to go and probably late into the night. This is Fowler. This is Di Lee's seat. She is behind in the count. Tu Le has picked up votes, but so has Di Lee, and that will likely see her in front, although it's going to be close as that one plays out. Di Lee getting votes. She'll get them from elsewhere as well. A really hard-fighting independent member there. If she wins this one, it's a tough fight to get her out after this, because independents become sort of ensconced in those seats. Yeah.
Chris Bowen, I think you've got some numbers on the seat of Fowler. It's going to be hard for you guys.
Oh, look, it is, but I think that will come down to postals. We wouldn't certainly be conceding that yet, and Tu Le is just a magnificent candidate, and, you know, we made the case that it was time to return it to a...
Chris, we're just going to interrupt, and we're just going to go live to the Canterbury-Helston Park RSL. Sarah. OK, we'll leave those pictures, those celebratory pictures up of Anthony Albanese. I wonder how the AFP's feeling. Katie is...
pretty stressed.
He's pretty safe, I think.
Yes, pretty stressed.
Eyes everywhere.
Let's go to Sturt in South Australia and check out those numbers, Charles.
Christopher Pyne's former seat. I think you won this with some pretty good margins, Christopher, didn't you?
And very skinny ones as well. Yeah, we've held that seat since 1972. We won it back against the Tide when Gough Whitlam won. We lost it in 69. We won it in 72. Labor had it between 54 and 55. Norman Macon. Otherwise, it's been in the hands of the Liberal Party since 1949. So, like Boothby, it's heartland Liberal territory, and winning it back's going to be hard.
Really hard.
That's a belting.
Yeah.
9%
Thank you.
swing.
It is a belting, yeah.
And the benefits of both a good candidate and a good state premier, which is showing as well.
Yep.
Well,
it's the Malinauskas effect.
I must say, Peter Malinauskas was on all the posters. I said to the
Not
ALP,
Albo.
you know, volunteers, I didn't realise Peter Malinauskas was running for the federal parliament.
Not yet.
Hey, Charles, run us through the seat of honour.
Thanks.
The Cara Cook, a former councillor,
It's
running
just an
there.
incredible swing to Cara Cook. 11% in Queensland, Peter Dutton's home state. Ross Vasta has been in that seat for a long time. We knew something was on when the Prime Minister went up there. It is clearly now over. Great result for Cara Cook, two-party preferred. That falls into safe Labor territory. A 10.9% swing. It is gigantic.
Can you rip through a couple more Queensland seats? Because we haven't even discussed WA yet.
Yeah,
Can you believe this is done
Okay,
and
we'll go
dusted
quickly.
tonight?
Let's go to Ford next. Again, one of the seats we didn't have on our list at the start of the night. Bert Van Manen keeps going backwards as that count gets on longer. That's still close. I'd be interested in the two-party preferred. Only half the votes are counted. Two-party, it's close. That one will be counting for a couple of days when it finishes.
Peter Beattie, remember he had a crack at that seat and couldn't
win it in 2013.
Bert's a great local member, works it hard.
Let's go to Leichhardt, the far northern tip. This was Matt Smith, the basketball player, against Jeremy Neal. He's lost a lot of the vote that Warren Ench got. Matt Smith will be fine. 36.1, once you get the Greens in there, two-party preferred says he's safe. I reckon it will be tighter than that. Again, there's not a whole lot of the vote that's being counted, so we keep watching that. They're ahead, but probably too close to call.
Longman in Queensland, Charles.
Longman was the seat of White Roy. It's based around Noosa. Terry Young has lost some skin, but nothing like his colleagues. 58.3% of the vote counted.
Local member.
Yeah, 36.4% to Terry Young. 10% Greens. Look at that vote for One Nation, the Trumpeter Patriots and Family First. When you combine those together, that should be enough to get Terry Young over the line. Two-party preferred would probably call this too close to call.
Oh.
Yeah, let's wait and see. I like Terry Young in that one.
It's interesting because, of course, course, it doesn't add up to 100%, but we'll just let that go.
There's a margin of error, I think, somewhere there.
Studied mathematics.
Rounding.
This is
You're from Adelaide, aren't you, Christopher?
I think this is the
Claire.
interesting seat.
Yeah,
You've been there,
absolutely.
Bridget. Look at those numbers. Sam Farraway, who is an upper house member of the New South Wales Parliament, long involved in, I've done a fair bit of work out here, in this part of the country, in around Bathurst, Orange and Lithgow. He's taken a big hit. That number, though, was what Andrew Gee, the independent, won when he was the member for Calare and a national. He's had a good night combined with Kate Hook and Labor. I think the two-party would say Andrew Gee holds that seat.
Wow.
Well, we're not conceding that seat. We're going to wait to see the postals come in. Sam's done a huge amount of work, and the preferences will be very tricky. So we'll wait
that's
till
an
next
estimated
week for that
preference
one.
flow too, that 54-5, so that could be a bit closer, a long count. Mitchell in New South Wales is our next seat. This is Alex Hawke's seat. I mean, wow.
Yeah.
Christopher?
Okay.
Well, it's showing him winning on a two-party preferred, 53-47, and of course 44% is probably close to the 45% number magic figure.
Yeah.
45-46, and of course with pre-polls and posters, I think he will win.
Did you guys spend any money in the seat of Mitchell?
No.
No.
But it's very close. I mean,
Yeah.
it's
Still,
disappointing.
big swing. What about Wheels in
Yeah,
Victoria?
this is the one, perhaps, dark side for Labor tonight. That's because the Greens are polling so well in Wheels. That was always a possibility. Peter Khalil has lost a bit of skin. The Greens are well-known, state member of Parliament for the Greens there. Plus some of the rest of the vote flowing through. Again, you're counting that one for a long time, but a 10% swing on projections to the Greens is a lot.
Petrie?
Yeah, Petrie in Queensland. Again, we're going through a lot of Queensland seats because this is the most surprising part. Luke Howarth has sort of fought back there, but the combination for Emma Comer of that big primary vote, winning on primaries, plus the Greens, again, disaffected Liberal voters, scattering their vote everywhere. These are people that you would rely on for the last 3 or 4 elections to win seats like that.
Charles, let's go to Western Australia now. We've been fascinated to see what's coming in from there, and we begin in Curtin.
Only early in Curtin, that is an interesting result. Tom White has 42.5%. Kate Chaney has also seen her vote go up, though. Tom White, Colin Barnett told me Tom White is a future leader of the party if he can manage to get in. Right now, the projection is that Kate Chaney's in front, 41.9% of the vote counted again. If you can't win the seat of Julie Bishop, if you can't win the seat that Gina Reinhart and Twiggy Forrest lives in, it's hard for the Liberal Party to win an election.
Well,
This is the
forgotten people live.
This is the money bag seat for the Liberal Party traditionally too. So this is fascinating. That obviously that's going to go down to the wire, I would think. But
a lot
there
of
was
people
some
vote for
confidence.
Kate Chaney thinking they're voting for Liberal Party royalty.
That's right.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not like losing the seat to the Labor Party. I mean, Fred Chaney was in the Senate. He was a Senate leader for ages. Michael Chaney is Liberal Party royalty.
Why isn't Kate
Fred
Chaney
Chaney's
then?
father and Michael's father's
Well,
father
Kate's
was in
made a
Parliament.
few really big mistakes that are very particular to WA about...
But isn't the bigger issue that Kate
gas projects,
Cheney's not a Liberal?
Not a Liberal, yeah. I would have thought
If
so.
she's Liberal Party royalty, get her in a blue
But it
ribbon.
goes back to what I said before, that the affluent, progressive, socially progressive, or at least socially open, Liberal voter who economically always supported people like John Howard, low taxes, small government, less government regulation, they think, well, Kate Chaney's is just as good as voting for a Liberal. Allegra Spender's in exactly the same boat.
I agree.
The reason why Zoe Daniel might be in more trouble than Goldstein is because she's clearly not a Liberal, right?
And I think this result reflects what Jerome Laxale was saying in Bennelong. The government is formed from the middle. And if you can't win over the people who might think otherwise in places like Curtin, then you're in deep trouble. And the Liberal Party's got a lot of thinking to do, a lot of hard thinking, when it comes to rescuing seats like Curtin, like Kooyong and the like.
And like
And I think you've got some more bad news too in more.
Yeah, this is one of the more remarkable results. Bridget, I'd be interested to hear your...
This is the spoiler
thoughts on
seat,
this.
isn't it?
I mean,
This
there
one's
is
fascinating.
a scattering of the votes, including Ian Goodenough, who's sitting in fourth. He is the Liberal Party long-term member for the seat of Moore. And a bit like what happened with Russell Broadbent, he's taken just enough off to make this interesting. Tom French has snuck his vote up. Vince Connolly has lost votes. Our projection at the moment, with just 1/5 of the votes counts, says it's too close. That's because 54 will wait.
Yeah, I think it is too close to call. As we saw earlier tonight when we were sitting on 22% counted, things have moved around a bit.
Yeah.
I would like to think that Vince can get home, but Ian's obviously well thought of in his own community, and
he had an open ticket.
He had
That's
an
the
open
other thing.
ticket.
Now, the open ticket's the real
And then the
spoiler
preferences can spray everywhere.
I'm going to miss his
But that's
calendars from
another,
Parliament.
you know, refugee
I'm gonna
from
miss
the
him in the
Liberal
parliamentary
Party,
Friends of
isn't
Shooters.
he? You know, like...
Bullwinkle, messy and tight.
Yeah.
Yeah, Bullwinkle is the new seat in WA.
Succinct.
Let's move on.
Wow, this is messy and tight. This is
Yeah.
notionally Labor. That's why you're
Yeah.
seeing a movement in the votes, even though it's a first-time seat. Matt Moran, former staffer of yours.
He is
Christopher
former
Pyne,
staff of mine. Yep.
sitting on 22.8%. Mia Davies, a really good Nats candidate.
Absolutely. State opposition leader.
Yeah, I think she'd be disappointed to be sitting in third and therefore not a chance of getting the boost from the Lib. It's
the Pyne effect, I think,
Yeah,
Charles.
that's well.
Really?
That's
very
our
close.
best projection, and given there are so many numbers there,
Yeah.
we can all take a breath on that one.
Yep.
Yep.
Forest.
Yeah, Forest in WA. This is the seat that I think Nola Marino was leaving.
Yes.
Long term.
Yes.
Yeah.
Ben Small, who has been from memory, a senator.
Yeah,
bit
he
of
was
time
a
there,
senator for a short while.
has taken a hell of a haircut there, losing 11.6% of Nola's vote. We're going to be counting that one for a while. There is the 8% from the Green. There is 10% from One Nation. Depends what that independent does. This one's probably a Wednesday or Thursday.
I
kind
think
of call.
2PP.
We don't have one. We
will
don't even.
win
Yeah.
Forest.
Yeah.
Oh, you do?
I do. I think
Okay, yep.
just looking at those numbers and adding them up in my
Yeah,
head.
our computer said that's too hard
We
for
will
it,
get
so we'll
there.
wait and see.
You know what? It's been a tough night. You can have it.
Yeah.
How's that?
Congratulations.
For now, anyway. What about Canning in WA?
Canning in WA is important because of the person at the top of that ticket, and that is Andrew Hastie. He has got votes to him. He's taken ground off Labor, and it's gone straight to One Nation. Look at the switch there, 8 to 8. That might be a sheep issue. Keep the sheep was a big thing, that we haven't seen a whole lot of it tonight. Two-party preferred. He would have a huge swing to him, Andrew Hastie, and any discussion of Liberal Party leaders will
Leadership.
now include the name Andrew Hastie.
Exactly. Hastie, Taylor and Tian. I think they're the top three at the moment for the next Liberal leader.
No thoughts of throwing a female name in there? Not a Susan Lee? Part of the mix?
Susan Lee, as the deputy leader of the party, would have to be a contender. But I mean, I haven't spoken to her about it, but I'd be shocked if she wasn't a contender.
Yeah.
It's a matter for the Liberal Party.
Here's a seat we
it's a
should have a
big
look
issue.
at. This is that of Peter Dutton.
And this is why you need a new leader, is because Peter Dutton has lost 6.7%. His numbers crept up throughout the night. This is that shift you're talking about, right? He was at 29 for a long time, crept up. Even there, between the Independent and the Green, there's this assumption that the votes will come thick and fast in, and this projection, I mean, given Peter Dutton himself has said he has lost the seat.
Yeah, and I think that was really confirmation that he knew that he needed way more than 42 primary. And look at him, he's sitting at what was
Didn't
it,
get to
34?
42,
Yeah,
two-party
yeah,
before.
I know, he went backwards, yeah.
You know what? We're going to leave it there just for a moment. When we come back, we're going to wrap it up. It won't take long. Just some final thoughts from our panel, because there's a couple that need to get to a party, and we don't want to hold them too much longer.
Party.
Back in a team.
And a couple who need to get to a wake.
Yes, welcome back to what has been a very, very big night. We know that two Greens are set to lose their seats. We haven't yet turned our attention to the seat of Melbourne in Victoria. Melbourne, yeah.
Yeah, in
I keep
Victoria.
falling for
No,
that.
that's
Brisbane
right.
and Queensland. The seat of Adam Bant.
Yeah,
How is that one sitting?
Adam Bant won this in 2010, the first lower house seat won by a Green in a general election. He is now in trouble when it comes to this seat. He's lost 4.8% of his primary vote, 42% counted, so there's still a bit to come. Sarah Whitty running for the ALP is at 31. Now, she will benefit, you would think, from both Anthony Koutoufides' preferences and the Liberal Party. Adam Bant has this too close to call. Our computer says it's tight. Still a big swing of the vote out there, but given there are two Green seats that we look like it might go that way, this would be a big surprise and be another party looking for a new leader.
All right. Charles, thank you. Liz Daniels has done terrific work in our virtual tally room tonight, and let's go for one last bite at that wall. Liz.
Peter, one last look inside our virtual tally room, and I thought we'd end the night the way we started it, with a look at our big board. Now, 150 seats. This is how we begun. ALP on 78. The Coalition had 57 seats at the start of the night, and if I hit this button, let's have a look at how things sit right now. Labor has won 88 seats, says our computer. The Coalition 35. We do still have 17 in doubt. But if we remember, we talked about that road to victory and how the Coalition could potentially pave a path to the Lodge. These were the seats that we looked at. This was the wish list. Well, let's ask our computer how many steps along that road did Peter Dutton get tonight? And this is how it sits. None. Not a single step was taken in the Liberal Party's direction. We do still have 3 seats there in that light grey colour that are still too close to call, but otherwise the dial did not shift on the Coalition's wish list. If I do the same thing for Labor though, let's have a look at Anthony Albanese's shopping list for the night. The blue, the green and the independent there. Let's have a look at how things sit now. A clean sweep for Labor, bar Fowler, because there is that arm wrestle that we touched on there before with Daly and Chule in Fowler. So that one is still too close to call. But as it looks, and we have a look at the current board, 88 seats for the Labor Party. It's hard to believe that just for the last few weeks of this campaign, we have been talking about minority government. Well, that's how things sit as we end the night.
Well done, Liz. Thank you so much for what you've done for us on our coverage tonight. Thank you, Liz Daniels. Final thoughts before we say goodnight. Let's start with our National Affairs Editor here at 9, Andrew Probyn.
Well, this has been a monumental night, but also for the Labor Party. It is quite a remarkable result, given the polling that we've been told of, the private polling from the parties, but it also tells you how extraordinary preferential voting is, that even though you can have a party of government getting effectively such a low vote, but winning such a massive proportion of those seats, that is a lesson for modern politics.
Andrew, thank you. Bridget McKenzie.
I just want to give a shout out to regional and rural Australia. The National Party had a really great night tonight, held all of our 15 seats, transitioned many to new people that'll be joining our party room. And we know that both Calare and Bendigo, 2 seats we targeted in this campaign, will be going to postals and preferences into next week, and looking forward to bringing them into the fold as well. And I just want to, it has been a tough night at the office. For many that put their heart and the soul on the line to serve their country and their community. And I just want to give a huge shout out to the colleagues who've lost their jobs tonight and thank them, and our volunteers, and obviously the fabulous candidates who just work their guts out.
Well said.
Bridget, thank you for joining us tonight.
Always a pleasure.
Christopher Pyne, last word from you.
Well, I'd like to join my colleague Bridget in thanking the people who've lost their seats tonight, particularly my successor, James Stephens in Sturt. It's a big blow to me after 30 plus years of representing the seat and supporting James since I left, but also all the other good members who won't be coming back. But I do think, on a less positive note, the Liberal Party is going to have to do some work on our polling and the analysis of what the polling tells us, because right up until yesterday, when I was talking to people about tonight's television coverage and what was going to happen, the view of what was going to happen is not in the least bit reflected with the outcome. So there's obviously a disconnect between the information we're getting and how we process it in comparison to what the reality is. And I think that should be on the list of things to discuss as part of the post-election, the election post-mortem.
Christopher, thank you.
I think there's going to be a lot there. I mean, there's quite forgotten Australians that the Coalition was talking about. They were listening to Labor, Chris Bowen.
Yeah, well, 3 years ago, the Australian people put us to work, and today they said keep going. They endorsed the agenda. They recognised that there are things that we haven't been able to do in difficult economic circumstances internationally, but they asked us to keep do. We'll be back to work, and we'll be doubling down to deliver for the Australian people, because while it's a big win and a terrible night for the Coalition on our side of the fence, we see it as a command from the Australian people to keep going, to keep working and to deliver.
And can you guarantee energy prices will go down in the next
I'll
3
say
years?
the same as I said all through the campaign. All through the campaign, I campaigned in every single state. The energy prices will be lower under a Labor government.
More modelling, eh, Christopher?
And this was an energy referendum. Peter Dutton called it. It was a referendum on energy, and the Australian people voted. Australian people have decided that.
Katie Gallagher, I mean, you're very close to the Prime Minister. You've worked very hard, been campaign spokesperson for a lot of this campaign. Your final thoughts on how tonight has played out?
Well, obviously it's been a huge night for us and we've got the big smiles on our faces. I just want to acknowledge that everyone who's been involved with the election, really. I mean, I think we're so fortunate to have a country where, you know, we have very different platforms and policies, but we all get out there to a largely peaceful experience, a few bumps along the way. But I think that's something that's so good about Australia. And as Chris said, we'll be back to work. I, for one of the highlights of the last 3 years for me has been working with Jim Chalmers as Treasurer. He and I get on very well, and my job's made a lot easier by working closely with him. So I look forward to having a sparkling water with him at some point in the future.
Don't go crazy.
And Charles?
This is a youth election, so I'll try and find a line from a rapper or something like that.
No.
Yeah, Jay-Z used to say a loss ain't a loss, it's a lesson. This is a huge loss. It should be a huge lesson to the Liberal Party. Yeah. You cannot continue in the same direction. New leader needs a new direction because the country needs a good opposition. Congratulations to Anthony Albanese and the team. It's a remarkable win. A majority is a good thing. Let's hope that the difficulties everyone's been through in Australia these last 5 years are now over and we can all move to a happier place together.
And thank you, everyone from the panel tonight. Fabulous contributions.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks.
Well, that caps off a dramatic night in Australia's history. Prime Minister Anthony Albanese winning a second term in power, the first Labor leader to do so since Bob Hawke.
And tonight was a disaster for Peter Dutton, losing his seat of Dickson, the Coalition losing a string of seats and many more remain in doubt. This story is far from over. Our coverage will continue tomorrow morning on Weekend Today and, of course, full coverage in 9 News.
Thank you to our panel. We say it to you again. Thank you so much. Thank you to all of our reporters and our camera teams out in the field, to all our producers, to all our stagehands, to our studio crews in here. You make us look good and we thank you so much. We really do. Thank you too to Brendan Hockings, our executive producer, who does a sterling job to pull all of this together, and to the two men, Dan Soul and Aaron Thomas, who have given us this incredible graphics to provide you at home and around the country in clubs and pubs with all the information you need. We salute you both. Thank you so much. Thank you for joining us. Good night.
Good night.